Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Tactical Devils. I'm your host, Jarvis Cocker, and with me tonight I have Woolley as my co-host and special guest Phil Marsh. And you all know Phil Marsh has been on the show now 2-3 times, so he's familiar with you guys, and we are familiar with him. And that's the good thing, because tonight we're going to talk about transfers. It's a transfer deadline day, and we all know there came a statement from the club earlier today that there won't be any late deals and stuff coming in. The club is done with the transfers in this window, and we are cleaning the house and preparing for the summer transfer window according to the club. So we will see what's going on. But tonight we have Phil on, and we will talk a little bit about the ins and outs when it comes to transfers from the player perspective. So it will be interesting to hear how it works from that side of the game, because we always see it from the fan perspective. So it will be a little bit interesting. I just want to say hi to the people in the chat. We have Neil Driscoll coming in. He say United not buying anyone. That's shocking. Yes, I think we all felt a little bit shocked, but we all in a way expected this, because I think we spend all our January transfer window money on sacking Ten Hag and bringing in Amorim. So we didn't have much to spend, but it's just the way it is. J United coming in, they say, hey Jarvis, hey Stu, and hey Phil, thumbs up, big up J United, good to see you here. And Rusty Shackleford is in the house. He comes in, and Ineos just hung Amorim out to dry. Yes, that's a good comment. And I think a lot of people feel that maybe Amorim now is getting scapegoated. I heard Nuradin talked on his channel that some of the fans are starting to be negative to the manager, and this is how it goes. And I feel when they're not backing Amorim now in this January window, we might see a turn on the manager. We know how it is in this club. Stu, does it worry you now when we see this, that they're not backing Amorim?
It's, to me, a big problem, actually. It's a really big problem. I mean, on normal occasions, I'm not asked about the January transfer window. We've only really ever made it work for us maybe once or twice. And I'm talking about the Vidic Evra era, where it really worked for us. And Bruno, of course, he came in January, didn't he, a couple of years ago. After that, the January transfer window never works. It doesn't work for anybody. It's always slim pickings. Everyone's overpriced, unless you're a mid-table team and you've got nothing to lose. You know you're not going to go down. You know you're not going to go up. You've got nothing to lose. When you look at what City are doing, they're just about to complete their fifth signing, aren't they? From what I can work out.
Yeah.
It's this Porto guy who's 50 million. They'd spent 130 prior to that. So 180 million in January tells you one or two things. It tells me that they're in for a transfer ban at the very least in this FFP hearing, because why would you spend that type of money in January? You'd wait till the summer. So the rhetoric coming out of Manchester United is, and by the way, Jarvis, I think the Ten Hag sacking and the Amorim hiring has been our downfall for sure. And I just feel that the word coming out of the club that we don't want to panic buy, what was that, about 10:10 this morning, something ridiculous, after the so-called messiah of Matthias Tell, who's had the whole of the fan base in tears. What's he going to Tottenham for? Blah, 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 blah. When all of us know it's never going to work, having a 19-year-old prospect who hadn't scored in 14 games. When you look at Højlund, who hasn't scored, and Xerxes hasn't scored in the last how many games in the Premier League, you're adding blanks to blanks. To be fair, you may as well get, and I mean this in the nicest possible way, Phil, get you out of retirement, pal. At least you're likely to put one or two in the back of the fucking net. Yes. You know, me.
Not do any worse, Stu. Let's put it that way.
This is my point. Yeah, I know, and I meant it with the greatest respect. You know, when you know where the fucking goal is, and you know where to be, and you know where to stand, it's going to come off your fucking shoulder one game, isn't it? Yeah. Average dates. Yeah. And so I, you know, look, listening to what they're saying, we want to push all our money into the summer. We want to get a big name striker. Who's going to be out there in the summer? what position will our club be in the summer? You know, we're 12th at the minute, Jarvis. Surely we should be pushing for the Europa League victory to try and get us back into Champions League contention. Then you can attract Harry Kane-esque player. Esque. No esque on it. Although, to be fair, you get Harry Kane in. And I watched your man tonight, Jarrod Bowen. He's been out of action for 6 weeks. 43 minutes in, first chance, bang. Off you go, celebrating in the corner. Fucking brilliant goal. Brilliant strike. Why aren't we even knocking on West Ham's door tonight? We want Bowen. Name your price for Bowen. We want Bowen. What about Kudus? Name your price.
Welbeck.
Get Welbeck back in.
Get Welbeck back in. Yeah.
Justin Kluivert. You know, somebody who knows where the fucking goal is, for God's sake. All this.
Phil, you know Welbeck, don't you? Call him. Tell him to join us.
You know, all this messing around, you know, Matthias Tell, buying for the future, fine. But that's what you do in the summer, isn't it, Phil? You go for the future prospect in the summer. You don't dick about in the January transfer window, because you're not going to get the player you want. City have gone in. They've turned over Leipzig for Mamouche. Looks a decent player. Yeah. And they've just carried on, and they've got what they want. Like they always do. They go and they steamroll people. Aston Villa got what they want. Didn't fuck about. We want Rashford, so we're going to go in and get him. We know we can get him. We're going to go and get him. Didn't piss about. None of these clubs dick about. We dicked about with Dorgu for weeks.
We did.
Weeks. I know people are talking about, we don't want to get ripped off, etc., etc., etc. There's got to be a balance, a better balance. You know, Matthias Tell clearly had nowhere else to go. Clearly. You can say what you like. He clearly had nowhere to go. And Bayern Munich has said your choices are Tottenham or the bench, and you're 19 years old. You better go out and play. So he's gone to Tottenham. So that's the big news story. Tell, you know, has this massive U-turn. Does he bollocks? He's been told he's got to go to Tottenham. So I'm really disappointed, Jarvis. If I'm being honest with you, mate, I'm hugely disappointed. I'm not surprised, which is probably not good either. But I just feel that we should be doing something. Yeah. You know, somebody raised the question to me yesterday, actually, is Amorim likely to resign? How's he going to feel after all this? And we don't know, do we? Time will tell. But look, we've got a really important game Friday. Then we've got a massively important game a week on Sunday away to Tottenham. We've got 2 massive games now. And we're going in with a very weak squad. You know, people are talking about bringing Luke Shaw back in at left centre-back. What for? Half a game before he starts limping off, or he doesn't want to get involved anymore. We've got Anthony gone, irrespective of whether he could play or not. He was a player that we may potentially need. Rashford's gone, a player that we probably could have. You know, you could just go on and on and on.
I'm speaking about Anthony. I think it was the wrong move lending him out. I think he actually was quite good when he came on. He actually hold up the ball when we were going into attack, and his combination play with Ahmad, that was brilliant. So I would like to see more of him and actually try him out on the left wing back instead of Dalot, because I think that Dalot has been dreadful lately, and you know he's not a winger. He's a fullback, and that's his biggest problem. He don't know what to do when we go into attack. So yeah, a lot of good points there, Stu. I just want to say hi to the people coming in. I see Johnny K is in the house. He comes say evening to you all. It's good to have a left back, but we are crying out for a goal scorer. Yes, we may be short in funds, but it's clear our big issue is scoring goals, and we haven't resolved it. And I think a lot of fans feel the same. So it's a good comment there, Johnny K. Nash M87 comes in. I support Amorim. My biggest grip is Amorim was almost 100% told he wouldn't be back because of PSR. Fans should have seen the writing on the wall, including Amorim. Yes, I think Amorim was aware of this when he came in and took the job. But I suspect Ineos have money. This is my speculations. I did some calculations today. And according to our budget that's out there, we will have about 72 million pounds when you go into the summer. And if we offload, let's say Casemiro, Rashford, Anthony, Ericsson, Evans, Malacia, the guys that been linked out, we will save about 63 million a year. So it gives us a roughly 130 million to spend. And but I don't suspect Ineos spending those money because of I think they're saving up for a new stadium. There's something that's called equity capitals too, and for us to get a £3 billion loan, let's say we have to put up about 10% in security for the banks for us to get that loan. So I think Ineos are slowly saving up those 250, maybe 300 millions for us to get the new stadium. So we are in a transition, and it's a long-term project. The new stadium is 5 to 10 years ahead.
Exactly right.
Yes.
I mean, I stand by.
And we're not buying any expensive players. We will buy our Drogus, our Heavens, 10 million here, 15 million there, low wages, and replace them with high earners and big spenders. So this is our squad. I feel that we are heading our way to mediocrity, at least for the next 3 to 5 years. I don't see us competing when we invest this into the team.
Well, I said 8 years, didn't I? Before I think we'll lift the Premier League title.
You said so, yes.
And I stand by that. That's how long I think it will take for us to do it.
Yeah. And lovely Lola comes in and say, new subscribe
for
the team,
Lola.
Jarvis. Thank you, lovely Lola. Let's see how many subscribers we are on. We are on 452 subscribers. So thank you. We need 48 more to get monetized. Then we reach our first goal. So that will be great. RushMano is in the house. We got RushMano, and tonight RushMano will bring us the latest when it comes new transfer updates. Nash M87 say, from what I read, Aston Villa has financial problems with PSR. They somehow worked out several loans to back the team. Why didn't we do that? Also, shouldn't just terminate Casemiro's contract ASAP. Yes, that's a valid question.
You got to pay him out though, Jarvis, haven't you, Phil? If Phil's on 10 million a year, he's on 2 years. 2 years left. Phil's going in. Terminate my contract. 20 million, please, or carry on paying me salary. I'm going off to Saudi Arabia.
All right, I'll take 15 right now. If you have a suitor coming in right away,
I'll take 15 right now.
Yeah. I was just saying, you can sometimes come to a compromise if obviously the players agreed to go somewhere else and you're happy, but obviously the contract and what it's worth would need to be settled somewhere along the line to some degree. So yeah, it's still going to cost the club a lot of money either way.
Yeah. Which is a real shame, but that's the way it is, isn't it? Once you sign a contract, that's it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's me.
Jarvis, you went quiet there. Are you back?
I don't know. Am I back? Can you read me?
Yes, you're back. Yeah, I think he's back, isn't he?
My Steam account started to update in the latest Counter-Strike or something.
Yes, I don't know what happened to you then. What's happening in Norway tonight, pal? What's happening in Norway?
I think I'm back.
I
think I'm back.
Yeah.
Glitch in the matrix.
Yes, glitches in Norway. Well, while Jarvis is almost back, Phil, we are in the midst of transfer deadline day. We're coming towards the witching hour. It'd be interesting to know. I'd love to know how a transfer actually works, how it actually comes about. Are you in training one day and the gaffer pulls you to one side and says, well, look, Palace have been in for you, Phil, for 20 million. We've accepted it. What do you do then? How does it springboard from the initial conversation? Does it go to your agent first? Does it come to you first? I know that's tapping up, etc. But we know that happens. How does it work?
Yeah, it's a really complex and sort of broad sort of situation, scenario, whatever you want to call it. So I'll try and go through it as best as I can. I'll start with sort of the sort of basic situations, and then I'll try and go on to like maybe some more difficult, complexer, more in depth about that. So I think the first one where I always sort of look at it is, as a young player, you're sort of on the fringes, you may be coming up through the ranks and doing well in the youth team or the reserves, and then maybe looking at going out on loan. So a loan deal is probably a player who's realistically thinking, I'm ready to play real football. I want to maybe, get a few games in the first team, but I'm not quite ready yet to, be a mainstay in that team. So I want to get some experience of first team football. So in my experience, you'd either be asked by one of the coaches or you'd be recommended maybe by one of your, senior members of staff that were in the club to say, well, we've got a lad here who's got really good potential. I think we need to have a look at him and let's have a little look around to see whether he can go out on loan somewhere we can get some good experience. It's obviously better than reserve team football because you're playing a professional level, you're playing for points that mean something in front of crowds, and that sort of gets you ready for, obviously, if you come back, say, in 6-12 months' time after a decent spell, you've got that little bit of experience behind you, and hopefully you've got a taste of what it would be like if you was to make the step up. So in that situation, that's pretty straightforward, pretty simple.
Can I just ask then, Phil, when you go out on loan, what is the expectation from the club for your conduct, for the way that you are developed? Do they give you a development plan, a personal development plan? Do they give the club a personal development plan? Do they say to the club, Phil's brilliant at this, but he's weak on this, whatever that may be? Left foot, just use your left foot as an example. When you're training and when you're working with him, we want you to concentrate, not specifically on his left foot, but make sure his left foot is rotated into whatever training session to do. Are there plans of that nature? Is your fitness regime that you have currently in Manchester United, is that also sent across to, say, Carlisle United, and do they follow that to the letter?
Yeah, so I think, obviously, all that kind of stuff in terms of the club that would obviously be taking you would obviously have monitored you and would know what their expectations are of when you come in, what kind of player are you. Obviously, the training and the facilities and all that kind of thing are probably not going to be what they are. Say, for example, if you're at Man United and you go to Carlisle, obviously the training structure and the sort of timings and the facilities are all going to be slightly different, as you would expect. But I'm sure Man United, the parent club, would be saying, this is his daily routines, this is the expectations, he does this, he needs to incorporate these gym sessions and recovery and all that. All that will be put into a package that, the club that's sort of taking him on will try and facilitate as best he can. Now, that always isn't the case. I've seen lads go out on loan to clubs where they haven't got access to a gym, they haven't got access to a swimming pool to do the recovery sessions or whatever it may be. So when that is the case, I think that then goes, the onus is on the player to then maybe go to a gym privately, or if some players might have the luxury of having something in the house. So that is all dependent on where they are as a club and whatever. But yeah, I think so. In that situation, then the player's obviously looking to go and play some games, express himself, get himself settled, and then the club just keeps an eye and monitors that situation. And if there's any problems, any issues, obviously you've got an agent involved in some cases, which nowadays an agent's are probably a must for every single player, who will get involved if there's anything that he's not really happy with. Again, I've known lads who's gone out on loan and it's not really worked out because the training facilities are not great, or where they're staying, they can't, there's not enough round to keep them occupied, and it just doesn't work out, and they end up coming back and maybe going somewhere else. That can happen. However, as a young player, you'd want to be, going there and just making the most of having an opportunity to play first team football, whatever level it may be, League One, League Two, whatever. Get yourself some experience, and then when you come back, that's then the chance for you to say, well, I've been out, I've done really well, I've expressed myself, played in competitive games, and then you're hoping that the sort of parent club looks and says, right, he's managed that, he's done really well, that's great, and then maybe can we integrate him now into the first team a little bit more and maybe give him a couple of games to see how he copes, because obviously the standards are massively different from obviously if you go to League Two to then stepping into say like the first team Man United. But what it does do is it gives you that little taste, and there's nothing better. Like obviously I played reserve team football at Man United for 3 or 4 years, but when you actually go away and you play a proper game in front of a proper crowd, playing for 3 points on a Saturday that genuinely means something, you can see how much it means to the players, the fans, the staff, the management. There's nothing that can replicate that, and that is where inevitably you learn your trade of how to become a professional and deal with all the ups and downs that come with it.
Lovely. Can I just ask you one more question about the loan cycle? We hear all the time, Rashford and Anthony in particular, that the loaning club is paying 70% of their salary, the remaining 30% by 30% by Manchester United. How does your pay arrive to you? Are you still getting paid full whack by Manchester United on a Manchester United slip, or is it two pay slips, and then does that affect your tax?
Yeah, no, I think so. What happens is I've been on loan from a club that I was obviously still getting paid from. The two clubs agreed to pay half my wage each, so you'll still be paid by your parent club. The two clubs will just sort that out.
Okay.
Sort that out between themselves. You'll just still get paid by your parent club as you would do normally. Nothing will change in that regard. It's just a sort of verbal agreement between the clubs to sort out. Obviously, we'll pay X amount. It doesn't have to be 50. Obviously, in this case, it's 70%, and it could rise to more, and that's fine. Clubs can do that. They're more than happy to agree, because, as I say, if you're not having the player at the club and having the ability to use him as United aren't going to have now when he's gone to Villa, Aston Villa then would have been told by Man United, listen, if you're taking him, you're going to have to be paying at least X amount for us to be happy to get him off the wage bill, because he's not going to be at our expense to use. So that's fine, and that does definitely happen. Again, clubs can come to an agreement where they might not be able to afford anything, and the club say, no, well, we're just happy for him to go out and get some experience. It's not when we'll still pay his wage. And again, that comes down to circumstances. I think with the Rashford one, we've seen sort of Amorim come out with these comments in the last couple of weeks about his attitude, and I think it was like a no-brainer that we needed to get him out of the club and give him a sort of fresh challenge, just to get his head into something different, and for him to sort of have a little break from what was going on. So in that situation, it's a winner for all people, because it wasn't working at United. We're paying him an absolute fortune. Obviously it's not ideal in a way that he's gone to a club that's in the same league, that's playing better than us at this moment in time, because the worst thing you want to see is when you send a player out on loan in this kind of situation. If it's a young lad, you want him to excel and do brilliant. Now, I'm not saying I don't want to see Rashford do well, but it's a little bit of a kick in the teeth when you've got a player who's been so good, and what his capabilities are, and how good he can be on his day, to sort of see what's happened to him in the last 2 years in terms of where he was at, to see the deterioration of Rashford, to then go out and loan it for him to start resurging and playing really well. That would be obviously a massive kick in the teeth for United fans and for the manager and for everybody. However, the only good thing is he's still obviously our player. So if he does go out and really turns it on and starts playing well again, we're hoping that that might be the thing so when he comes back, he can sort of kick on and carry on, because, as I say, it just wasn't working. So that's hoping.
I've got another couple of basic questions.
Before you move on, I just want to say I have to restart my computer. It's acting up. It's all laggy. So give me 1 minute. I will be back.
Problem. I've got some questions about the loan side.
We have a transfer update from RushMano you can go to afterwards. So I will be back, guys.
Yeah, you carry on, buddy. Yeah, so I've got, as you can guess, I've got loads of questions for you about the loan, because I think the loan is absolutely fascinating. And there's a couple of other things that people will be wondering, but they won't think about, really. We would, as footballers, and that is, diet. You're on a strict diet at Manchester United. What kind of dietary instructions are sent to Carlisle, for example? Is Manchester United sending your breakfast, dinner, and lunch, that type of thing, because they want you back the same nutrition player as they sent you away. And the other thing is boots. Now, a lot of players today have their boots sent in quarters. You know, in every quarter they get X, Y, Z boots that are made for them. But younger players aren't quite there yet. Some are on the spectrum of getting that deal. Shea Lacey, for example, has a deal we know with Nike. Other players aren't. So you're used to going into the kit man and saying, studs are a bit crap, can you just deal with them for me? And they do it. When you're at Carlisle, that wouldn't happen. How do you overcome as a player all of this? Now, people in the chat might think that's just basic stuff. Why would you worry about it? But it's actually really important as a player to know that if you've got a problem with your boot, and it might be your favourite pair of boots, Phil, you scored a hat trick in on Saturday, you want those boots again, don't you? And there's a stud missing, or it's slightly come unstitched. What happens when you're on loan for that, and the dietary, if you don't mind me asking, because it is paramount, isn't it, to a player?
100%. I think you're right there in terms of, obviously, when you're at sort of a top club and you have all these things that you're doing on a daily basis, weekly basis, and it becomes sort of second nature. You're in that bubble. Everything just runs like clockwork. As you say, you've got all the chefs, physios, kit men, all that kind of stuff, and you sort of take that for granted. So when you go on loan and sort of you as the player, you want to try and stay in that mold and in that routine as best you can. Now, as I said, the training facilities, maybe the expectations and sort of the quality of the training and all that kind of stuff will not be the same as what it was at Man United. But as the player, it's your responsibility to try and keep the standards as high as you can, to make sure that you keep up with your diet, your boots, all that kind of thing. So what used to happen when and this is something that, to be fair, if you go on loan and you stay in and around the area, it's obviously a little bit more accessible and easier. So what a lot of players used to do was, if they went out on loan, say, and it was still within a decent radius of Carrington or the ground, they would still be able to get people to, bring the boots. Or if they had issues with the boots, they could send them back and someone would sort that, and then you'd make sure you have them for your match day or whatever. If you was having sort of like certain foods, certain dietary requirements, you'd be able to ask and they would be sent to you, or they would be, someone would prepare them and make sure that you had like a week's worth of stuff for that week, and then obviously the following week and the following week.
Yeah.
If for example, you went on loan and you went abroad. So when I was at United, I got asked to go on loan to Royal Antwerp, which was in Belgium.
No, it was a feeder club at the time, wasn't it? We had a connection, didn't we?
Yeah. So there was 5. I think there was like 4 or 5, maybe more over the couple of seasons that actually went out there to Belgium and played. In the end, I didn't end up going because we had I was due to go, and a couple of weeks before I was due to go, we had a couple of sort of like high-profile injuries in the first team and in the reserve team, and he sort of was lacking a little bit of cover and all that kind of stuff. I ended up staying. A few of the other lads went. So when the likes of them went abroad, because obviously that kind of stuff, you can't be sending stuff, on
yeah, of course, yeah,
back there and back. Then they was just told, listen, you're going to be there for X amount of time. It might have been 3 months. I think they went for 3 to 6 months, say. So they was just given a dietary plan that was given by the people at Man United. This is what you should do. Now, this was just guidelines because obviously, all this stuff when you go over there might not be there ready and waiting. They would have spoke to Antwerp and said, listen, our lad's like X, Y, and Z. He has this before his pre-match. He has, this is the stuff we want him to have. And they would try and accommodate you as best they can.
Right.
Obviously, they might not be able to do absolutely every single thing that's on that itinerary, but they would try and meet that as best as they can. In terms of your boots, you would just have to go and obviously take your own boots over there. You'd obviously speak to the kit man at Antwerp and say, these are my match boots. I like these for training. You might have to take 2 or 3 extra pairs in case some rip, because if you're not at Carrington where all your gear is all the time, it's not as easy to sort of facilitate things like that. So in that kind of situation, you sort of left to your own devices, but given the ammunition as best you can to just go and succeed. And I think in certain situations, if obviously something drastically goes wrong, and you'd be able to contact the club and say, listen, I'm absolutely, struggling here. The food's awful, and I can't. There'd be some situation where the club would make sure, if he was feeling that he was really struggling, they would, send someone out there, or they'd get someone from somewhere in Belgium to come and meet you and get something so that you felt happy and secure and give yourself the best chance to succeed. That is my experience in it. And as I say, nowadays it might be different. There might be a lot more to it. Obviously, I know how far the game's come on in terms of sports science and recovery and all the sort of, analytics within the game now. It's probably, a lot more to it now in terms of when you go on loan, all the stuff that you need to be doing. There's probably, 10, 15 more things that we probably haven't touched on there that, the modern day will have to be going through. But from my experience, those were sort of the little bits of things that you would need to sort of stay on top of. And as I said, Man United would always try and help and facilitate anything you needed in order for you to feel comfortable, have everything that you need to succeed, and feel like you can settle in at your new club and do well. And that was it, really. And as I say, it was good because there was always someone on the end of a phone if there was anything serious, or you really needed something and there was a desperate issue that needed solving, you'd be able to. And then if for example, United couldn't solve that and there wasn't anyone who would help with something, you'd always have your agent then who's got other contacts with other people, so you can always lean on him. And again, it's the end of the day, I think the club, always try and give the player the tools and the ammunition to go out and sort of express themselves and do the best. Because if you're selling them short and you're not giving them, all that kind of stuff, then you're never going to get the best out of them. They're not going to be happy. The loan deal might break down, and then it's obviously the negotiations of money and all. And so the club ideally want everyone to feel happy and then run it as smoothly as they can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks for that. That's a great insight, Phil. I wanted to ask you about player liaison in between your transfer liaison, because we know that within the loan system, Manchester United, there are 4 or 5 people that facilitate loans, don't they? So there's like a liaison element to it. So I wanted to ask you about that. And then I really want to delve down into a paid transfer between 2 clubs. When you're notified, how you're notified, what your thoughts are initially. Are you, one for the better phrase, forced into a move? What element do you have that turns around and says, hold on, I don't want to go? So, but I know Jarvis wants to bring in Mr. Structure. How are you, Nuradin?
Big up, Nuradin.
Big up, Nuradin. Yeah, sorry, John.
No, it's good to see you, Nuradin. I'm glad you had the time to jump on. Before I bring you in, I just want to read out the latest updates from RushMano. He said the MUFC has prioritized their summer budget by deciding against an attacking addition in the winter, paving way for a major striker signing in the close season. This comes from Samuel Lockhurst. I'm not going to call him by his middle name, but Nuradin knows his middle name. But Nuradin, what's your thoughts? Do you think this is Ineos spinning, or is it?
It's because if they would have come out at the beginning of the transfer window and said that, then at least we know where we stand. If Omar came out or Wilcox came out or somebody from the club other than Amorim comes out and talks about the plans that they have for Manchester United's strategy, the transfer, what they want to do, most of us would have been, but they actually, let me say something. The only other club that does it is Manchester City. Manchester United and Manchester City are officially the only 2 clubs in world football that have a rumour mill on their official websites. Mm-hmm. Let that sink in. Manchester City and Manchester United were the first football club in world football to have a rumour mill on their official websites.
Wow.
Why is that?
I know that.
Because they get clicks. The players that we've been linked with, it's about eyes and clicks. And 6 hours, maybe around 5 o'clock, they came out through their mouthpieces in the Athletic, Laurie Whitwell and Einstein, saying Manchester United would look at this window was about, what was the word they used? What's the word they used?
House or clean house?
Clean house, clean house.
Clean house.
And I'm like, what have you cleaned? You've sent 3 players on loan and none of them are obligation to buy. So explain to us what you, and then you've got the biggest earner who doesn't even get any minutes. Sits on the bench. I mean, on Sunday I was there and I'm like, at least get him on, put him up front. At least he's a threat from the air. Get balls into the box. He can actually head the ball. Yeah. So at the end of the day, Ispinios, nothing between Jim the Rat and the Glazers for me. He came out and spoke when he first took over the club. He gave a couple of interviews here and there, but he doesn't come out with anything about the future direction of Manchester United. Like I said, Ashworth was more days on gardening leave than he was actually a director of football at Manchester United.
Yeah.
And like it's unbelievable. They're not even come out and officially told us who's the director of football now at Manchester United. So is it Wilcox? I thought he was a technical director. Is it Vavell? Is it Omar? Because if you looked at Nice, they had actually got a manager and turned him into a director of football.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, for me, the club is in trouble. We're in serious trouble. And the biggest person, the person that I feel really bad for is Amorim, because they said to him now or never. And there must have been conversations had, because they if you believe in all reports, they interviewed him in the summer and they said, oh, you're not compatible with the squad. We did video after video with Jarvis, and we said that he's the last guy who will never fit into the United way, playing players who are here anyway, because he wants to play with wing backs and number 10s and have this box midfield, and he has to have two physical and tackling monsters and number 8. We don't have any of those players. So this idea that they have left, and now if Garnacho was to get injured, Amad Diallo was to get injured, Rasmus to get injured, we're fucked. People are not thinking about that. Still a long way to go in the season. And now Martinez is out. They couldn't even bring anybody. And some of the fan base are telling me about this kid, Heaven. I don't know if he's had any professional minutes for Arsenal, like on a professional level.
Yeah, he hasn't
played the minutes. But apparently he's going to save us. And then this Dogu kid, who comes from us, to me, I'm very suspicious of that league. You know, I think it's at times it looks like over 50s walking football.
Yes, well, I know a lot about that, Nuradin. I know a lot about that, pal.
Yeah, so
I get my Zimmer frame out on a weekend.
Well, Serie A is like that at times for me. It's like that. It looks like that because there's no. But this 20-year-old and an 18-year-old, we're banking on them.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
John, got any questions about for Phil or?
No, well, just from a player perspective, I'm wondering how the process really works, because as a player, you read the paper, nowadays they read the social media, they heard that they are linked to clubs, they all have agents, that runs the show. But how does it really work? Do the agent just send an SMS? Okay, AC Milan is interested in you, or do they? How do they deliver the message? And is it top secret that it's only need to know basis, or do you get to hear it from the coach, or I don't know, how does it really work?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it can come from a number of different people. An organic transfer, in terms of if a player's playing really well, he's doing really well, and a club thinks, right, we need to sign him, I want to buy him. A bid might go into the club, and then obviously, a representative from the club would potentially speak to yourself or your agent just to say, we've had a bid from, X, Y, or Z, and obviously, we're considering it because, A, we might need the money, or, B, it might be a potential good move for the player. Now, in a lot of cases, that doesn't always play out the way that, you want it to. There's a lot of different dynamics as well that come into it, because obviously in certain situations you might have a player that's not playing regular, who's a bit unsettled, i.e. like your Rashford situation. That fits both parties well, because I think he needed a fresh start. The club wanted to get him off the wage bill and try and obviously recoup some of that money that's being wasted essentially by him not playing. And then that becomes like a no-brainer, right? Let's get him on loan and sort of get him off the books for a little bit. Again, it can get a little bit messy though, because sometimes a player will sort of then be a little bit unsettled if sort of like a bid comes in, and then as you say, the rumour mill starts kicking off, and it upsets the apple cart when he's obviously doing well, and then there's this club and this club. Sometimes it's just complete bollocks. It's just there's no truth behind it. It's just somebody throws 2 and 2 and gets 20, and then everyone's talking about it and this, that, and the other. Essentially, what the actual process should be is, because Stu mentioned it before about tapping up, and it does go on. Players will speak to other teams and will speak to when they go on international duty, they'll speak to other clubs, and they might say, "Oh, we're interested on the sly," and that definitely goes on. And if you don't think that does happen, then you're very naive. There will be sort of text messages that maybe get slightly banded around just to say we're looking at bringing such and such in. Can you have a word with him and see what he's thinking, and this, that, and the other. All that kind of stuff goes on, and is probably a big part really in how transfers eventually get to the final destination of what happens. But yeah, it's a lot of agents and fees and clubs being able to. I mean, it's more difficult when you've got a player who's under a big contract, because then you've got to sort of look at the logistics of how long he's got left on his deal, what his earnings are, will the club be after if there's a pay up, and all that kind of stuff. So it can get a little bit messy at times with certain deals. But yeah, in the main, obviously, by the book, it should be, someone's interested in a player, a bid, will get submitted to the club will receive that, respond either straight away to say like strictly no, because he's one of our best assets, we're just not selling him, and then they probably wouldn't even tell the player at that point, because they're just outright saying he's under contract, we're not going to sell him, he's our best player, whatever, and that's the end of it. In another situation, it might be, oh, well, hang on, this club's offering X amount, that's a really good sum of money. But then you've got to sort of speak to the player, because he might be happy. So he might be saying, well, actually, no, I don't want to go anywhere. And, the kids are settled. I like it up here. And and then that then becomes a little bit of a, because what I've seen as well, which some people probably don't look into and understand as well, is if a club sometimes receives a bid that they are absolutely blown away by and think, we need to chin on this player. Even though he's doing well and he's a nice lad and he's all the things that we expect from our player, that bid might be too good to turn down. And then what starts to happen is the hierarchy or the people above will say, listen, we need to get this money and we need to act quickly. So then what starts to filter down into the coaching staff and people around the player, they'll start treating him differently. They'll try and do things that will upset the apple cart, and then slowly but surely the player is feeling as though he's being nudged out here, and he's being all right. So and then when it gets to that point, it gets a little bit toxic. You're training with the reserves, or you're not in the first team changing room, or you're the floater today type of thing. All that kind of stuff has a massive part. And then once you've got to that situation and that point, there's no coming back from that. Because you've basically been cast aside, and then you've been left with no option but to say. I mean, and some players don't do this. Some players might say, "Well, no, I'm not going. I'll stay on my contract. I'll just take my money. I'll sit on the bench. I'll train with the 21s. I'll do whatever." And then it becomes like it's horrible. And I hate seeing that. That is the worst situation that you can have in a football dressing room, because it's just toxic and it's just a waste of talent. But that definitely does happen. But if you've got anything about you as a player, in most situations, I feel is right. I want to be playing football. I can't just let things fizzle out and just come into training. And you might be earning a massive contract. So there is that to consider, and I do understand that. I would just want to get out of the club, go and play football. If we have to take a little bit of a wage cut, so be it, but I'm still playing football. I want to go somewhere where it's appreciated and valued. And that's what happens.
When you say something, go on, Nira.
So I just wanted to ask, that was one of the questions I really wanted to ask about how can the hierarchy, chairman, CEOs unsettle a player? because they want to get rid of the wages. They no longer can afford the player, and how they can then put pressure on the coaching staff to the managers, coaches to lie about the player to get him out of the football club. That was one, and I think you explained that perfectly. But the other one that I wanted to, the other question I wanted to ask is that in a teams where you're struggling, how much signing a couple of players, how much of it, because I've speak to ex-players and some of them have said it gives everybody around the training ground, the coaches, the club a lift. You know, you sign one or you're struggling, you're not getting the points, you've lost game after game. You get 2 players, everybody lifts. You know what I mean? People start looking around going, oh, this guy's coming after my position. If you're playing in that similar position to that player, the training ground gets a bit sharp because you want to impress the new players who are coming in. How does that impact the dynamics?
No, I think what you just said there was bang on. So especially when you're struggling, even more so, it's highlighted. I think, you know, when you're going into training and the mood's a little bit somber and everybody's a little bit, you know, confidence is low, the training ground's a little bit flat. Everybody's sort of looking at somebody else are you going to be the one that's going to, you know, pull us out of the crap? And when you get 2 or 3 maybe new signings, that just, you know, rejuvenates the whole dynamics of the club and the dressing room and the training. Because, as I say, then players want to think, well, right, well, he's coming in, I don't want him to take my place. So then you sort of start picking up a little bit and think, right, I need to, you know, be back on my game. And then you're looking at these new players, and as you say, you want to impress them. You don't want them to think, oh, you know, I'm not good enough and I don't deserve to be playing this weekend, and I want to, you know, give everything. And it just gives the whole place a bit of a lift. And I've seen it loads of times where, and to be fair, it was the different end of the spectrum when I was at the club. Obviously, United were winning everything; they had all the best players. But even still, you know, that competition and that drive, and when you bring a new player in, it was different because obviously the place was already buzzing. But then when a new player comes in, the competition goes even higher and ramps up even more, because then the players that are the so-called, you know, first names on the team sheet, they're then looking over the shoulder, oh, we've just signed Veron, right? I've got to be, you know, bang at it, and now I've got to show him that I'm, you know, the player that's going to be starting centre mid, not you. So it can differ depending on, obviously, you know, where you are as a club, where you are in terms of like your mindset and the culture within the group. But yeah, I think massively at the moment, I think for United, you know, especially with the sort of season that we've had so far and the sort of run of games that we're on, it would be essential for me to get a couple of new bodies in. And I don't think really for me, you know, even though we've made a couple of signings, when you're signing young, inexperienced, you know, not proven quality Premier League players, i.e., you know, per se for what I'm on about now, it doesn't give you the extra added, you know, let's say, for example, we sign, you know, somebody who's been playing in the Premier League for 4 or 5 years, got loads of experience, you know exactly what you're going to get from him as soon as they walk through the door. That would have more of an impact on that dressing room and that training ground than, you know, like the likes of the lads we've sort of signed in this window, the young lads from Italy and things like that.
Yeah,
it might have a little impact. It might, you know, give a few people a little bit of you know, I want to, but I don't think it quite has the same impact as you know what obviously we should be having. I think crying out for obviously an experienced striker for me that can lead the line and take a bit of pressure off you likes of Ireland and stuff like that.
My last question, sorry, Phil. My last question is how do you think Amorim is feeling right now? Because have you been in situations like that where a manager's come in and a manager's been sacked, a manager has a way of playing, but none of the players really fit his style, but then they're not backed him in when they needed to, when the manager's struggling? Yeah,
I think he'll be feeling let down, mate. I think, you know, obviously the conversations that he'll have had probably before he signed was, you know, that he'll be getting the backing and that he'll be able to bring in the right personnel to play in the style of football that he wants. Obviously, he wasn't probably naive enough to think that was going to happen straight away. But obviously, you look at the players that we've got and obviously in the style of system that he wants to play, it just doesn't work. We haven't got the calibre of player to play that style of football. And obviously, he's quite, you know, regimented and strict in his ways. That's his game plan. He's not going to change. And unfortunately, at the moment, the way we're setting up, we're just setting up to fail, and it's obviously been proven, you know, more times than not. again, you've got to have a look at some of the onus on the players as well. Though I think even you can line up however you want on a game of football. If I'm playing on that pitch, regardless of what the manager's telling me and what I need to be doing and where I am on the pitch and this, that, and the other, I've got to take ownership of that. And sometimes you've just got to, be a little bit more proactive in the game of football. You've got to smell danger. You've got to do things that just go above and beyond. A flip chart or what the manager's showing you on an iPad to do in training. I don't think there's enough of our players that have got that intelligence and that understanding of how to manage a game in the game. I think we're sort of so naive and sort of don't really sort of smell and read the situation that we're in a lot of the time, and a lot of the time we sort of shoot ourselves in the foot. It's not really teams cutting us open and breaking us apart. It's us being really sort of naive and not
doing the basics, not
doing the basics. Yeah, just not doing what a Manchester United team should be doing and sort of coming second nature. So yeah, I do feel sorry for him, and as I say, I can imagine he's feeling very disappointed and let down at this moment in time with obviously what's unfolded.
Yeah, I just want to go back to the initial contact from club to club, then club to player. Now we know that at Real Madrid put a bid into Manchester United for Phil Marsh, £100 million, etc., etc., etc. How does the bid come in? Because we all know about the infamous fax machine incident a while ago with Mr. De Gea and Woodward. So how does the bid come in? Who does it go to? Do we have a specific point of contact at the club? And during the negotiation process, there's £100 million. How do Real Madrid want to pay for it? You want to go to Real Madrid. You've already agreed personal terms, which happens, and clubs are still negotiating the fee. Are you at any point informed of how those negotiations are going on, whether there's a 50% chance you'll go, a 70% chance you'll go, or a 20% chance you'll go? And within that period, are you able to turn around and say, here's my position, this is what I want as a player, they've put in a bid which I think is fair value for my services, you're getting better, good money for me. If you can't agree a deal, where do we go from here? Because you want to go, they've accepted the bid, but they can't quite get the negotiation over the line. How does all of that work? Because we know it's murky, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is. I think, as you say, back in the day when I was there, obviously that was what we was always told. It was obviously a fax would come through, and obviously the sort of offers and all that kind of stuff would be on that. Nowadays, obviously, it's probably done a lot differently, a lot more efficiently. The club will obviously have to then look at the offer. Agents are then obviously massively involved. I think they do a lot of the representation in terms of what the contract is and how much the player wants and all that side of things. So really, as a player, you're obviously constantly getting told all the information about the length of the contract, the offer, the wages, all that side of stuff. So you'll always sort of be in the loop. However, you might not have masses to say in terms of the intricate details, what your agent will be sort of contacting and speaking to representatives from both sides of the clubs to try and get the deal over the line. As you say, it doesn't always pan out because the clubs can't agree a fee, or it might be they want an extra add-ons because agents sometimes obviously you always have to consider as well when it's a massive transfer. I.e., you look at most recent times like the Mbappe one or the Haaland one, the agents and the fees that are in that involvement of obviously like paying an agent hundreds of millions for getting the players' services first and foremost. That kind of stuff can take a while because clubs don't want to just throw needless and endless amounts of money down the drain because a player's services are obviously the key part in that, but it doesn't come without a cost sometimes, and that's where it can break down. Either agents get too greedy, clubs then pull out last minute and say, well, actually, we might need another player, so we haven't got that much to do that. There's a lot that goes into it. And as I say, as a player, obviously this is, just going off my experience as a player, I was always told to just, stay focused on the football. The agent will essentially do all the nitty gritty stuff, and you just try and focus on obviously what you're getting paid to do. And you obviously be in contact with the agent then around all the sort of details of what the transfer would sort of entail.
Yeah, it is interesting. I bring that up because of the Mateus Tell incident, if that's what you want to call it, today. Yeah. I think, like I explained earlier, Nuradin, I explained to Phil that I think Tell was told one or two things: stay and don't play, or go to Tottenham. That's why I think it was relatively cut and dried for that. Yeah. But we do know there's been instances where 100 million transfers have got over the line in days, as opposed to 100 million pound transfers that have taken a while to get over the line. And I wonder, and I wanted to ask you, and you've already covered it, because I wanted to ask you about agents' greed, because I think everybody in the chat. And by the way, Jarvis, I don't know if you'd realised, but Stephanie's nicknamed it the Devilish Tacticos, I think. The Devilish Tacticos. Yes, you're on mute. I think that's brilliant. So we should put that to the vote, and if the VA, the room are happy with that, we should call it the Devilish Tactico.
I love the name.
To be fair, I said that name.
Oh, did you? I didn't realise that. Sorry, I didn't realise that. Yeah. Well, I like it, so I think we should call it that. So I just want to go back to agents' fees. A lot of fans hate agents. They don't really understand the role of the agent, because all we see is Mino Raiola, when he was alive, unfortunately, taking 40 million pounds out of Paul Pogba's pocket, etc., etc., etc.
Yes.
We don't really understand the mechanisms behind that. So maybe you could give us an idea. And also, I've got one other question. I don't know whether you've had an experience, or you know a player that has an experience where a transfer breaks down, and the player then turns around and says, I will buy myself out my contract, the remaining part of my contract. If you've got any experience on that, and you can maybe understand how that works as well, that would be great. So agents' fees, are they overrated? Do we know too much about agents' fees and a player buying himself out of a contract? Because ultimately, the club's looking for the best value for themselves. The player wants the best value for him and his family. If that's what you hear within the football circle. And then there's the buying club wants the best value for them. But if you've got 5 or 6 agents pissing about in between, and it happens now, doesn't it? It never used to, but it does now. How complicated does that get? And how much out of £100 million would Real Madrid receive, or Manchester United receive from Real Madrid after you've spent money on agents? Sorry, it's a bit of
no. I think so. In my experience, and I think obviously it'd probably be the same across the board. When you have an agent, there's one of two things that the agent will say to you as soon as they offer you services. So the first thing is they will say, upon any deals or transfer fees or moves, they want 10%, which was a figure that used to be, the sort of, that was their figure that they would take out of any deal that was done. That now might have changed. I'm not 100% sure on that, but that was sort of usually the ballpark of what kind of a figure an agent would be looking for. And you would then have to sort of, out of the fee that you was given, like a signing on fee or whatever that may be, you would have to then pay them the 10% for sorting the deal and obviously offering their services.
So we try and do that at the signing on fee. So if you got 200 grand signing on fee, so anyone who doesn't know, there's usually a contract, which is a salary contract and bonuses, etc., that Phil will agree to. But he also gets a signing on fee, which is paid, am I right in saying, about 6 months or up to 6 months it can take on it for the signing on?
Yeah, depends. Yeah, they can pay it depending on how much it is. If it's obviously a large sum of money, they might pay it off in sort of different time frames. They might give you some straight away, then they'll pay some like a couple of months later, and pay it off throughout the year, say for that first year. If it's not like a massive figure, they might just want to settle it straight away, and they might just give it you at the start. But yeah, usually if it's obviously like a 6-figure signing on fee type of thing, they would then do that over a certain period of time. And you would obviously have to sort that out with your agent, sort of, as and when you wanted to. The agent would always say to me, I had two agents, so I had a few agents, but I've had both types of agent. I've had one that I had to sort of pay 10% for any transfer fees out of my own money that I received, and then I also had an agent who who would never take any money off me ever, but he would always negotiate in the deals from the club to pay him the extra. So again, that comes down to sort of, when you do your negotiations, he would always make sure that he got X amount for, sorting the deal out and sort of, getting my services to whatever club I was going to. So they're the two options that you have with an agent. Obviously, both probably, work out the same for them in terms of how much they get. It's just dependent on then. Obviously, if in an ideal world, if you can get an agent who says, listen, I just want to help you, I want to get you, X, Y, Z, I can offer you boot deals, I can get you clothes, I can sort anything out, I can speak to clubs, and I'm not going to charge you anything, but when you move, I'm going to negotiate in that contract that I get X amount, which then essentially for certain levels of football, obviously we're not talking about the top level here, the lower down you get, that might then, impact on how much you're getting on your contract, because the agent's taking, but the club aren't willing to pay, X amount to give it as an agent fee, as well as what they was already offering you. So then your maybe yearly salary or whatever might come down slightly. Whereas if you don't do that and you go for, well, I want X amount, but then you have to pay the 10% out of your own wages when you get your signing on fee or whatever to the agent. Sure. So it's a bit of a gamble, really. You can look at it one or two ways. You can sort of go for the bigger contract and say, well, you don't have to pay anything to my agent. He's just sorting out this contract for me, and then you do it yourself, out of the club's hands. Or you can go for the other option where essentially you're not paying him anything for the services and getting him all the nice stuff that he does. But then when you get that big move, bang, he's getting a good payday because he's getting, X amount in that deal from the club. And that's essentially, how the sort of agents' fees work.
That's interesting. I've also heard how true that is, that some agents represent both player and club in that specific deal. If it's a low yield amount of money, maybe it's a 200 grand, transfer between clubs, then the agent will do pretty much everything, won't he? And he'll get
and that can happen,
or whatever. There
is circumstances that might happen.
So on the day of signing, then how does that kind of work? So you've agreed everything. You've travelled over to Madrid. Madrid have put you up in a hotel. They've told you which mansion you're going to live in for the first 6 months till you find your own place, etc. They've given you your car, what car do you want, etc., etc. How does the actual process then go from landing in Madrid to actually signing the contract to become that Madrid player? What's the mechanism of that, and how long does that normally take?
Yeah, so I think it probably takes, obviously depending on the time of when you actually sign. If it's a last minute deal, then obviously you'd probably go have a bit of a sleep, and then you'd be up early in the morning to do your medical. The medical's obviously usually the first thing that the club that's purchasing the player will want to do, just to make sure that there's no outstanding injuries that might, be a bit of a hindrance within the deal. You've seen that over the years sometimes where a player's failed a medical because there's been something show up on a X-ray, or he's not been able to, do a particular exercise or whatever. So that's always something that gets done. But, a lot of the time that's just a formality, and you just do that. And then that's when then obviously you would then go and speak to the representatives and sign the contract, maybe do some photo shoots or, speak to the press, do like an interview, all that kind of stuff. That gets done sort of pretty quickly after the medical. And then I think as a club, you want to sort of get it all, boxed off as soon as possible and get all that stuff away, so that the player then can just focus on obviously getting involved into the training and sort of welcome to the group. You go into the first team changing room and start meeting some of the players. Again, hopefully a few, so it's a bit more smooth transition. And then, you just get yourself settled. Obviously, they'll, as I said, we talked about it before in terms of like trying to get you settled when you go to another club. They'll try and do everything as best they can to help you settle in, in terms of accommodation and, traveling and showing you where things are. And then, you just try and sort of, get straight into it as a professional footballer. That you're probably used to traveling and doing all that kind of things anyway. So you just have to.
I only ask that because obviously you see
what
players.
What about a translator, Phil? What about a translator who's going to help you get the lingo?
You could speak fluent in Spanish, can't you, Phil?
that is a big one. So when you think about obviously players that have come from England and gone over to so like Harry Kane or someone who obviously probably won't have spoke any German, and obviously goes over, that is more difficult than you could think, because I actually went to Germany for a month while I was at United. I went to Bayer Leverkusen and did like an exchange. And myself and a player went over there for 4 weeks, and I trained with the 23s. And I just found it like really hard to sort of communicate and understand what people were trying to say. And obviously some of them spoke a little bit of English, which helped, and you can sort of communicate. But I don't know if you've ever done it, but if you're trying to play football in a team and nobody can really understand what you're saying, it is quite unsettling, and it is difficult to get yourself sort of settled and familiarize, what's going on, because, even the coaches, when they're explaining what the drill's about, you're having to sort of, what's going on here before, and you have to sort of gradually pick it up. And obviously you don't want to keep making mistakes, because you then you're like, he doesn't know what he's doing, but it is difficult, that kind of, settling in process. Obviously at the top level, I'm sure it's a little bit easier, because you'll have translators, and you'll have people who can, relay what was said in English so that the player understands what is expected and what the drill's about, and you're doing this and you're doing that. But because I didn't have that, when I went to Leverkusen for that 4 weeks, so I did struggle a little bit with some of the stuff that was being asked and said, and just trying to pick it up straight away. So it isn't always, as easy and as straightforward as it looks.
Great question.
Sprichst du Deutsch?
Yeah. And I did.
Here he comes.
Expression in Bitten, yeah.
Multilingual Jarvis. Here he comes. Here he comes. The reason I asked that question is because obviously Dorgu landed yesterday, didn't he? Landed at whatever time, and today the big interviews come out and all that. Well, luckily he wasn't behind a piano, so all that's done in an 8-hour period. Is that they try and get all of that done in one day, so you get straight to the football side, and then they can then announce the signing as and when they feel like it, type thing.
Yeah. Actually, Dorgu's been to Manchester a couple of times. He works with a specialized coach, a guy who's based in Manchester, who works with professionals. So he's been to Manchester over the past couple of years. He's popped in here, like coming for the summer training and like international breaks and that. To come and do one-to-one training. So he's been in Manchester before. And some people have even might have seen him out and about, people were telling me.
Well, there you go.
So I would recognize him. He's been out in he went to Ben Brazil apparently, which is the restaurant, one of the main restaurants in Manchester. A lot of professional footballers. They do a nice steak in there.
You want to get him in the Northwest Counties Prem, Phil? get him in there. Get him plying his trade, mate. Get him plying his trade. Guys, I hope you found this really interesting. I know I have, and I've been in football a long time, and I found this absolutely fascinating as I've had question after question after question for Phil. So I'm going to shut up for a few minutes and hand back over to my old mate Jarvis to catch up with the old devilish tacticos.
Yes, I made a vote, so you guys have seen it. The question was, what should the chat be called? And there were 4 options. Sorry. The devilish tacticos was one of them. Red hot tactical mess. VAR check overruled, and Bruno's Hollywood Pass Society. So out of those 4, the devilish tacticos got 67% of the votes. So hereby I officially clear the chat for the devilish tacticos. So
yes.
Now
you forgot to put Marsh Mainoo in there. Marsh Mainoo would have definitely won it. It definitely would have won it. The Marsh Bars, yeah, wasn't it, Phil? What was your nickname at United? It can't have just been Marshy, surely.
Yeah, I mean that was pretty much it. I don't think I had anything. Yeah, no, it was pretty standard. I didn't really have anything that was a little bit. No, I'm trying to think. I don't think I did anyway. Not that I can.
Not that you knew of.
No, I probably did have, but yeah, not that I can remember.
Throughout football culture, especially in around Manchester, it's your nickname. It's the shortest aspect of your name. That's what you get thrown at, innit? It's like it's the easiest thing to say. Yeah, yeah. It's crazy. I've tried to play football when I've been just even messing around on the park, like even asking people to pass the ball. When I went to university in Liverpool, I played for the uni team, and it was hard to stand the Scousers. Forget Germans. You know what I mean? It was very difficult. They were like, come head, la. And I'm like, what? What does that mean? Like, come across. And I'm like, you mean pass the ball across? So it's funny how language football is. Because you think it's a universal language, but the communication and talking is so important when you get on a football pitch. You know, you have to be able to understand. I mean, that's why the funny thing they say about Antonio Valencia, did not ever speak it. But he was a warrior, wasn't he? He was a tough man.
He was. Brilliant. I have some updates here from RushMano. I'm just going to bring you through the latest that came out on. We have this one, the saga of Matty Tell. It's Spurs have reached an agreement to sign Matty Tell now from Bayern. The deal of the 19-year-old attacker on loan until the summer with a buy. Is it an option on a 6-year contract for 55 million? So medical complete. Franchute International is to sign shortly. So that puts an end for the speculation. We are not getting Tell. And this one came out. It's from Fabrizio Romano. So Tyrell Malacia has arrived in Holland. So he's proceeding talks with PSV Eindhoven over loan from Man United. And I think that's a good thing. I think he needs to play regular football, and because he's been out for a long time. Hopefully,
I will argue to death with anybody. He's given us more than Diego Dalot this season when he's been on the football pitch. Yeah. I'll argue that to death.
But I think he needs
100%. No, 100%. Yeah. He needs the regular games and where he's not under pressure and he's not thinking, oh, if I make a mistake, I'm going to be. He needs to run the games because not play for 18 months. Yeah, 100%.
100%. Yeah. That's
should have gone on the first day. You should have gone on the 1st of January. If anything was started, if there were a run that was run properly, he would have been out the door on the first day of the transfer window.
Yeah, but you know how we run, Nuradin. It's always in the last minute with Man United. It's been like this for 20 years, or at least 15 years. Another update, it's from the United District. MUFC Academy midfielder Ruben Curley is set to join Stoke City on a permanent transfer. I don't know this guy. Nuradin, have you heard about Ruben Curley? This guy?
Watched him, yeah. I've seen him play, yeah. I've seen. Yeah, I keep in touch with the youth teams, with on the 18th and the 23. So I watched them, like the games, the highlights of their games. Yeah. There are a couple of young, good players. Jack Fletcher, I'd really like.
Very good. Yeah.
And,
yes, he's good.
My favorite player though is the kid with the Welsh name. He reminds me like Scholes. I know that's a lot of pressure, but honestly, he plays the way he dictates the game. I find out what the kid's name is. I always forget because I'm dyslexic. I always forget bloody names. Yeah, there are a couple of really good youngsters at United, but the physicality is something they need.
Yeah.
And we have this one, the last update from RushMano. It's about MUFC are working to secure a last-minute loan move for Sam Mather. Mala. Yeah. So I think it's good that we get the academy players, the youngsters out on loan. They need to play men's football, not under 18s and under 21s. I think it will develop them more for the future.
Yes.
So it's good. It's good. So thank you, RushMano, for the updates. And if there's anything more, just send me the links and I will try to read them out. I haven't planned much for the rest of the show, but I think we can talk a little bit about the game yesterday. And we lost the game. I think it was a dreadful performance. Nuradin was at the game. You saw it live. Crystal Palace, they looked really solid. They played the 3-4-3 formation, and I think Glasner showed us how the 3-4-3 actually works. They had good wing backs attacking, bombing forward, both guys attacking at the same time, crossing from one wing back to the other. And I really liked how Crystal Palace played, and I think they won deservedly. And I think a lot of our players really struggle to figure out how to play this Amorim system. So I wanted to ask you, Phil, about the false nine you saw yesterday with Mainoo. How do you think it worked?
No, I don't think it did work. I think effectively, I think, you look at that game yesterday, and for me, the difference, it was a poor game. Both teams didn't necessarily play that well, but I think what Crystal Palace had up front was the big fella Mateta, who, was a handful. He sort of knew where to be when the ball was out wide. He was always in the box, available to be in a position where he could either get on the end of a cross or, be in an area where it might fall to him. And you see with the 2 goals that he scored, that is what we're lacking massively at this moment in time. And asking Kobbie Mainoo to sort of play as a central attacker it is not going to, work out. He's not got the physicality to do it. He's not, got the familiarity of being in that position as a central attacker. Now, if you're telling me, do I think he would play well if there was another central forward up there with him? Now, that's a completely different conversation. I think if yesterday Kobbie Mainoo, for example, was playing for Crystal Palace in behind Mateta, that would have been a really good combination, because I think Mateta can hold it up, he can lay it off. You've got a platform to build off. He's good in the air, he's strong. And Mainoo is great in picking them little pockets, getting into positions where he can affect a game in the final third when he's got his, ball in front of him and he's attacking the goal. It's a completely kettle of fish. When you're back to goal, you're having to get balls played into you. He's not the biggest and he's not the, tallest player when balls up, because the quality, as we've talked about this for weeks and weeks, the central forwards at Man United at this moment in time, granted they're not doing enough, granted I don't think they're good enough to be at the club, but also the quality isn't quite there. And when you're already playing in a struggling side and you're having to deal with poor quality as well, that is not obviously a formula that's going to materialise well. So yeah, again, I don't think that performance was great by Mainoo yesterday, but I don't really blame him as such, because I think he was sort of given a sort of helpless task there to sort of do that. I think obviously it worked quite well in the week in Europe. He sort of thrived in that when there was a little bit more time on the ball, but in the Premier League it's too physical, and it's too quick and strong to sort of get away with that. You've got to have more about you, and I don't think that's the position that he should be playing in, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, it's a different gravy, and I think I saw it when we played against Steaua Bucharest. I think the level of that team wasn't Premier League level, but more like a League One or even League Two level. The tempo of the game was totally off, and we dominated. Yes, we did, but I said that we shouldn't get giddy because of the opposition. I would hold my judgment until we met the Premier League opposition, and we saw what happened, and we fell through. And I think you're right about Mainoo. I think he had a good game overall, but it was a difficult task playing as the number 9, and especially you played as a number 9 all your life, but you usually played in the 4-4-2, so you always had a second striker beside you, so a support striker. But playing as a single striker, you depend on the wingers to cut inside, run in behind when you drop down, and I think that was one of the biggest issues we didn't see yesterday. Actually, people filling the pockets that Mainoo opened up by dropping down. Do you agree, or did you see that?
And I think that was the sort of before the game, that would have been what the conversations were. That was sort of the tactics, Mainoo to drop in and create that space in behind for the wingers to come in, but it just didn't really work out. I think we've seen Brighton the other week. Obviously, they got hammered at the weekend, but we've seen Brighton when they come to Old Trafford and Welbeck was dropping in, and then you had them. They utilised that tactics, and it worked to a T for them, because they had the players that was playing them balls in behind with quality, and they had the wingers who knew when to make them runs. yesterday when obviously I watched United, it was just, there was no quality, there was no timing of the runs, everything was breaking down. It was just really, really poor. But again, that comes down to personnel rather than the tactics. I mean, I don't blame the manager for wanting to stick to his guns and sort of be quite open and honest in sort of saying that that's the way he's going to play. But with this group of players that we've got available, and I think it's blatantly obvious that he's sort of flogging a dead horse really with obviously what we've got available. So yeah, it was just disappointing really, because I think there was a lot of optimism again a little bit after the midweek result in Europe, and obviously we've had a good campaign in that so far. Just the inconsistencies again of obviously the Premier League form, and it's probably been, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, it's probably one of the worst campaigns that we've had at Old Trafford in the start of the season. Is it 7 games we've lost already at Old Trafford?
Something like that, yeah.
It's like, that shouldn't be happening. No matter how bad things get and how poor players have played, that's just that's just not acceptable.
Nuradin, we saw yesterday when it comes to Bruno. I know you were very critical about Bruno's performance, but you talked about the box midfield, and we see here on the tactical board the box midfield with Lerma, Hughes, Sarr, and Kamada operating there, and Bruno didn't have any space going into attack, so he dropped down in the pocket between Martinez and Maguire and almost crowded the 3 centre backs. In a way, and hoofed it long a lot of the time in the game. So, what's your thoughts on this? Do you think that was the right choice?
No, it wasn't the right choice. He was confusing. There were a couple of times where he's getting into the passing lanes and he's almost kind of like trying to get in. He got in between Martinez and Maguire, and it was causing them confusion. It was causing them confusion because. What is he doing there? You should be able to try to receive or go further out wide into the wide areas. That's where where the Masraoui or Diego Dalot, you just come off them a little bit, so you give them a way to receive the ball. But he wasn't doing that.
We see a lot of the time when Eriksen play, he drops into this pocket. Yeah. Also, what's that guy called? Plays for Spurs. The number 10. Madison also always dropped into this.
Yeah. This is how the system works. If you watch the team, if you watch Sporting Lisbon, the players always show. So there's always a kind of a diamond when the ball is in one part of the pitch. Diamond is quickly created to give the player on the ball options. But we never saw that. We never saw that. And then what was happening? Bruno would drop in between Martinez and Maguire. Who's the ball? They win it. And then Ugarte will jump. And then they were our back 3 or back 5. And nobody's going to the ball. The amount of times Kamada and Sarr picked up the ball inside on the halfway line and turned and just ran at Maguire and Martinez. It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. To me, the biggest thing, I don't know how Phil and both these guys play professionally, but I played at the lowest standard I played Saturday, but I knew positioning was important.
Yeah.
And that if a player goes all over the football pitch, it confuses people. Positioning, holding your position, being positional discipline is one of the most important things you can do in a football pitch.
One of the biggest
unless
issues...
you're Paul fucking Scholes, that you can ping, you know what I mean? Unless you're Paul Scholes, then you can go anywhere you have to earn the right. Because your passing is so accurate, you can pick it up and do 60, 70 yards right on the toe of the wing back. You know what I mean? Drop it into the zone there.
Yeah.
And he was the master of that.
One of the issues that, if you put that board back up, Jarvis, one of the issues that Bruno has, when you're playing where Bruno should be in the middle, you've got to use Garnacho and you've got to use Mainoo to drag Lerma. You've got to get him to drag Hughes as well. You're not using Mainoo. Ahmad. You're not using Mainoo to drag Hughes. You're using Garnacho because although you'd look at it and think, well, Richards will pick him up, he won't. If you can push him in, and Phil will tell you this as a striker, and we're playing. If Phil's playing in a 3, he wants to be higher up. He wants to be pushing on Lacroix there for sure, 100%. He'll be playing on his shoulder all the time. look at the space already that's left Bruno. And if you pop in Amadou and Garnacho, you've got overlap then from Mazzari and Dalot. We weren't doing that. We weren't allowing that. Phil's then going to work between Gay, Lacroix, and Richards to get the best angle for a goal. And that's it's quite simple, isn't it, Phil? It's all about movement. We talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
And when you allow people to cluster you, like Nura was talking about, you're going to have problems. You really are going to have issues. And the other thing is, you were talking about yesterday, and you were absolutely right about Martinez's travel to goal. He's got it here. If you draw a line from Martinez to Richards, by pushing Garnacho in, pushing Dalot behind Muniz, that's the space that creates the Martinez run. Now, when you get turnover, and you will get turnover, you're still okay because you're blocking Hughes, you're blocking Lerma, you're in and around blocking Sarr, and you're working with the other guy, Kamada. So there are ways to stifle the opponent. Because Nuradin, I tell you, because he was there, because my lad was there, Nuradin, and he said that's what they did to us. They just strangled us, absolutely strangled us in the middle.
They work really hard. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Off the ball, everybody's active. So Kamada and Sarr off the ball, the level of intensity and the pressing and the physicality, they bullied us physically. I have never known, like the past 5-6 years, the team that we've had, I have never known such a weak physical players. Honestly,
because you play.
I have in all the time, in all the time I've supported United. One thing is that we physically will never get beat up. I mean, my favorite team was the 94, 93, 94 season. Because if you wanted to fight, they were they were fighting.
That's right.
If you wanted to play, if you want to play football, they'll play football. And this is like, Ince and Keane in the middle. You know what I mean? Yeah. Bruce Pallister, Parker Irwin. You know what I mean? Hughes Cantona, Kanchelski's Giggs. Like, they would fight you whether if you wanted a physical, they were flying for challenges. And when I look at these teams now, I just think how weak we are. I swear to God, I look at other. I don't know what it is because sometimes I think, are we so down on our players? Is it that does every team look more physically stronger and more robust or faster? Like, do they look like more athleticism in this? Do they have more legs? I looked at Garnacho yesterday. That Richards is positionally not that great. No. But he absolutely had Garnacho in his pocket. Garnacho got past him maybe once or twice in the first half. Second half, Garnacho didn't even want to know. Garnacho can get in the ball and pass it back.
But that's where, and I was about to ask Phil here. Phil would be, I know you would have, Phil, because I've seen how you used to play. So Phil's backing up against Lacroix, but he would have moved over to Richards and he would have pushed on to Gahey. And there's a reason for that. You're able to make the space, then, aren't you, for Ahmad? You're able to make the space for Garnacho, Bruno rushing through, Agate coming through. You're able to do that. Why don't we move the back three or the back two? It never happens. Hoyland never moves them out of position, does he, Phil? No. Ever.
No, and that's what happens sometimes in a game, as you say. If you are having a bit of a bad moment or you're struggling against a particular player, then you need to do something to sort of mix it up a little bit and change the dynamics of the game. Again, that comes down to managing the game, being proactive, knowing what's needed in a game of football. And I think because of the level that we're at the moment and the confidence levels and obviously the expectation of playing for Man United, some of these players can't handle that, and it's been proven many times. Again. You've seen that yesterday, and obviously when we conceded, the heads went down, and there's no real fight, and sort of there's no when the chips are down, who's going to drag us, who's going to stand up and be counted, who's going to do something different, who's going to lift the crowd. I don't see any of that really from any of these players at the moment, and that's a worrying sign because when you're in a team where you're already struggling. And the attitude and the mentality and the culture within the club is already broken and dismantled. It's difficult, especially for the younger players. You mentioned about Garnacho then and stuff like that, but he's played a lot of games now where you're thinking, you can get away with it maybe in the first sort of 15, 20 games, but now he's somebody who's, a really experienced player who's on about maybe, moving to somewhere else. You've got to show a little bit more and have a little bit more about you as an individual to sort of want to do more. And I just don't see that from a lot of the players. And just quickly, when you was on about the tactical side of things then, I think the way that Palace set up yesterday in terms of in that midfield where it was really congested and quite hard for us to get on the ball, Bruno dropping in quite deep and getting on the ball, for me, obviously, I take the point of obviously Bruno moving around and getting on the ball, but I don't want to see Bruno getting the ball off the back four on their toes. I want to see Bruno up. And what you need to do in that particular situation for me is, obviously, I get why Bruno's doing it. He's frustrated. He wants to get on the ball. He's not having much of a touch of the ball. And he wants to try and dictate and have an influence on the game. Brilliant. But in terms of what I want to see is if I can get sort of Martinez and Yoro, I think it was yesterday, who can drive past the halfway line and start committing people, be a little bit braver on the ball, pass the ball with a bit of, when we passed the ball, and I watched it yesterday, it was so slow and it was so like, there's no purpose in it.
You want the wide centre back to be playmakers and drive with the ball.
You need to drive over the halfway line. You need to start committing Sarr or whoever to come in and come, because at some point you're going to travel with that ball from in your own half past the halfway line. At some point, somebody's got to come and engage you. You're not going to get around the edge of the box before someone comes to you. So at that point, then that's when you've got to make sure you pass, you get a crisp ball into someone, and then that's where I want Bruno to be being a little bit more, sort of proactive, getting on the half turn, get me the ball into the space here where I can turn and dictate and play a little 1-2, or get it into Mainoo's feet, kind of get it out wide and get in the box. I don't want to just see everything going sideways and try and Hollywood balls from 60, 70 yards away, because
that's
you're
what we did.
The point there, Phil.
You're not going to break it down to Crystal Palace.
The point there, Phil, is Lacroix's not coming in because he's marking you. Gay can't come in because he's got to look at Ahmad and Richard. And then Bruno's got all this space. And then you're there making him, giving him an option, aren't you? If you look at it there, you're on the. You've pushed Lacroix back now to the penalty spot, haven't you? You're not where you are now. You've pushed him right back to the penalty spot. You're pushing them back and further back as much as you possibly can.
Try to open up the space for Bruno if the wide centre backs drive with the ball. They have passing options into Bruno, and then he can play all the players. They have several options, even Ahmad coming out on the wing.
One thing that we don't do enough of, and to a certain extent, I can half understand why, because obviously yesterday it was Mainoo who was up top. But what I want to see from us is when we play against teams like this, and you've got that situation where you need your centre halves or one of the back three to be pushing over the halfway line and engaging. Can we wrap a ball into our centre forward's feet and get someone running off him? Get someone who's got a good touch, wrap it into that centre forward, because that gives the defenders and the central midfielders that are playing in them two defensive positions problems then, because that ball's breaking the lines, it's going into a central attacker, and then the defenders are thinking, right, do I get tight? You've got runners coming off from the midfield. Can he turn and get it out wide and get in the box? But because we're so sort of, everything's just, sideways, there's no urgency, there's no crispness in the passing. It's so easy for a defensive unit to shuffle over. Oh, yeah, they're going sideways, they're going backwards. It's a sloppy ball, right, bang, we're in. We're reading it because everything's just so predictable. And that is why, at this moment in time, granted, we haven't got the players, and I totally get that, and we need better quality. But the way that we're playing in terms of the sort of standard of our play and the ideas and the creativity and the sort of style to go and, want to go. I want to see a team that, granted, I'm not bothered if, you go forward and you have a shot and it goes 50 foot over the crossbar. But if you go in with a bit of purpose and you get a crossing, or you get half a yard and pull the trigger and get a shot off, I'm not seeing any of that. I'm not seeing anyone who's got that little bit of a, bit between the teeth to make something happen. Right, I'm going to give me the ball. I'll show you. Give me, drop the shoulder, get a shot off, get the ball in the box. And even when it's not happening, I'm not seeing enough people as well, which really annoys me, getting a little bit upset and angry. Everyone's just like going,
Nobody gets angry. That's the thing about this team.
If I like, obviously Mainoo's not a striker yesterday, But if I'm Højlund or Xerxes or whoever's playing up front every week, and them wingers are not putting the ball in the box, I'll give you one. All right, it's not coming this time. Come on, get that ball. And if it goes out again and you're just chopping back all the time and, fake crossing and then coming back to fullback, that's it then. You're getting it. I'm telling you, get that ball in the box. I've made 15 runs here. I've not seen the ball. Come on. Sort it out. You need to know, because if you're not going to tell them, they'll just keep doing it all game.
It's worth pointing out, isn't it, Phil? It's worth pointing out, you're talking about fizzing the ball into feet. He's talking about fizzing the ball. So he's talking about top of the boot, but it's about an inch off the ground. So he's talking about real fizz. What we do, we side foot it in, don't we? We side foot it into players rather than zip it in properly.
Yeah.
Good old fizzing pass. I love it. Yeah.
Do you know what else? One more thing, and then obviously, I'm going off on here, but
go off on one.
And I see players get on the ball and they open up, and obviously I always think to like the likes of Scholesy when I played with him and people like that, but he wouldn't even. He wouldn't even think about it. He'd just touch out his feet, bang, and it'd just get zipped, fired out. And I'm not saying that these players have got the same capability of passing a ball like Scholesy, but sometimes you've just got to be brave and you've just got to try and do it. And even if you can't do it to that level, get it out your feet, move it quicker, and then give an angle and make sure that you sort of look like you even want to be on the pitch. Some of these, it's just so easy-ozy, like passing it and then laboured. Like I think it was yesterday, who was it? Yoro, I think it was. The ball, I don't know what happened, but it just like rolled past him. And he was like walking, and I was thinking, we're getting beat here, mate, and you're just like ambling to the ball. And before I know it, their player was like creeping up on him. Yeah. And I was thinking, oh my God, just some of the stuff I see when I watch, it just really, really grinds. I mean, it might only be little things, but again, when you watch
talking basics, Phil,
every week, it just takes.
Phil, you're talking basics, mate, aren't you? You know, when a ball's coming into you and he's just side footing it in, i.e., he's using the instep of his foot, it's not going to fizz with any accuracy, any real pace. It's going to bobble a little bit. You know, you want it, as you say, you want it fizzed into feet. You instantly take it in your turn. You get your body shape right, and then you turn. And you do two things from there. You either lay it off to your winger, lay it back to an on-running, but you're off then. As soon as you've laid it, you're gone. You're on that fucking penalty spot and you're waiting.
Yeah. And that's Stu, to be fair, was when I made the step up and I trained with the first team a few times, like when I went from training with the reserves and stuff, which was already a decent standard, that was the first thing and the biggest thing I noticed. The tempo in the training sessions and the weight of the pass, and wow, you've got to be on it here, because if you're not and your touch isn't right and your vision and your weight of pass isn't good, you get found out. And if you can't deal with that, you're out of there, bang, you've gone. And the tempo in training was the tempo what it was on a Saturday, what it was in the game. Because if it's not, which to me looks like, obviously, when I don't see what they're doing in training, but to me, it doesn't look like to me that in the training, the sort of sessions and the crispness of the passing and the drills that they're doing are getting these players up to a level where I'm looking at them on a Saturday and going, do you know what? These lads are fucking at it today. Look at the state of these. They're firing passes in. They're on the front foot. They're going aggressively into tackles. They want the ball. I can see people, screaming and asking for it. Everything when I watch, it's just dead flat, and there's no nothing. It's just ambling around. People just, playing the easy option. As a professional footballer, you've got to take risks, and it might not come all the time. But I'd much rather. And when I say risks, I'm not on about at the back four, like playing balls across the box and stuff.
No, you're talking about middle final third.
Third, breaking the lines. Fizz a ball into someone. Make them, take a good touch and turn and be aggressive with it. And, give some information as well. Pass the ball and tell him turn, man on, whatever. All this stuff is like so basic. But when I watch Man United week in, week out, I'm seeing so much that isn't happening. And it can't happen, but it is. And that's what's the worrying thing.
Another good point, Phil, is Højlund. I mean, me and Jarvis, make it very, very plain. We're not here to criticise players. That's not what we do. But I know, and we've spoken about this before, Phil, that you get a feel of your centre half, don't you? As a forward, you get a feel of what he's going to do. You kind of, if he's going arm's length, or he's going to come tight to you, he's going to hug you, he's going to try and fight you, or he's going to let you play. You get a feel, don't you? And that's where you make your mind up as a forward how to play him. As a defender, it's very, very difficult because we're waiting for you to do something I'm not expecting. I'm waiting for you to do it, but it's too late then, because anyone who's cute, you'll take it, you'll move it, and I'm thinking, oh, fuck, he's got me. And I'm never going to get it back. I'm going to have to take a professional foul, or I'm never going to. I always say to Jarvis, if you get 2 yards ahead of me, I'm not getting that 2 yards back.
No,
it's just not going to happen because there's only 10 or 15 yards between you and goal, so I'm not getting it back. So I've got to make a decision on what we do. So that was always my problem, and still is today, by the way. You know, the level I play still today, I still have that fear about commanding a centre forward, and suddenly he's done something because he's realised, well, actually, Stu takes it a lot on his left peg here. I'm going to do something, or he tries to muscle in on me, so I'm going to move across as he puts the shoulder in, things of that nature. Why doesn't Hoyland do that? Why isn't Hoyland recognise? Anderson against Fulham, if you remember, a couple of weeks ago, Anderson all over him, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Dragging him. Why didn't he recognise? Hold on, fuck off, leave me alone. You know, I'm going to step ahead to take the ball.
Yeah.
You know, but you talk about a fist. If it's not fizzed in, he can't step ahead and take the ball.
No,
there's no cuteness. There's no like. There's no like the dark arts. I mean, I looked at yesterday. Well, honestly, I sat in a north stand, right, face on halfway line. And I'm looking at our front three because at times when Bruno and everybody's dropping when we have the ball, and static, everybody's mannequin FC. Nobody, no third man runs, no like opposite movements. Nobody's coming short and then somebody's going into this. None of that. Just, and I'm like, how the fuck do you expect the ball to get the ball if you're just somebody up your back? And if you honestly, I played centre half a couple of times, like even in the Sunday league, that was the best. The guy who was in front of me, the guy behind me when I didn't know where he was, or the guy who had my number, who could see my number, that was the guy I worried about because I'm always like, not even because watching the ball, I'm like, where is he? Where is he? You know, because he's keeping you guessing.
Oh, nightmare, really. I mean, Phil will tell you guys in the chat, honestly, and I genuinely mean this, the best way to become the most prolific striker is to fucking miss, isn't it, Phil? Yeah. And the reason you're missing is because you're in there. You're understanding your positional play. He doesn't even do
when Andy Cole signed for us.
Talking about players doing nothing.
Oh my God, Diego Deloitte to us. I remember Andy Cole signed for us, right? And I remember telling me, I was really young and I was asking my uncle, I was like, he's not going to be here that long, is it? Because he's missing chances. I remember my uncle saying to me, you'd be what we would need to worry about if he wasn't getting the chances. Correct. If he wasn't getting, he said the chances would come, he just needs to breathe. He always say, take a breath, take that breath, and then boom. You know what I mean? Don't be so tense and tight. You know what I mean? Take the breath.
Take a breath. Relax. Relax.
That's the thing as a centre forward. If you're getting ample opportunities in a game of football and you're not taking them, all right, you get a bit of stick and you might get a bit of thingy short term. But long term, if you can create chances for yourself and put yourself in good positions and have good movement, you know, over the course of a season, you're gonna, you know, and a lot of the time, what people don't recognise is as well. Strikers who've got good movement, who've got good runs, get into good habits and do things well, doesn't always necessarily lead to them having the glory, but it creates a lot of space for other people to move into. It gives defenders problems because they're then having to make a decision, do I go with him or do I take the runner or do I have to step in?
Louis Saha, Wayne Rooney.
Plus,
everybody was devastated when Van Nistelrooy left. I was like, I actually prefer watching Louis Saha and Rooney because Louis will just, that pace, take away Rooney will get that space, bang. He used to just smash it to either whatever corner. And that's one of my favourite combinations, you know, Louis Saha and Rooney. That was the perfect example, like what you were talking about.
Yeah. And that's it, mate, yeah. But I think the difference, obviously, nowadays is that was when we used to play with like a 2, which I preferred. I always preferred playing with a strike partner because you knew if one was going in short, I've got to make sure I'm offering a ball in behind. And my movement's got to be short to come long, or I've got to go inside to run into the channel. I'm not just making blind runs where defenders can put their arm across me and block me. I'm creating space by doing opposite movement. I'm going short to go long. I'm going long to come short. Turn. I'm getting information. I'm getting eye contact with my fullback or my centre midfielder who I'm playing with. And them little relationships you get over time. And when you play with players every week and you do it in training and you work on them little movements and sort of routines that you get used to. It just becomes second nature. When I watch this current Manchester United team, I don't see any of these little phases of play. I don't see any of the movements from the centre forwards or the wingers, knowing when to time the runs, when someone's gone in short. That's the timing for me to make that running behind. And I just find it like mind-blowing how some of these lads can get into a position of being so lucky to play for Manchester United, yet look so clueless and sort of like a fish out of water. They don't know what they're doing.
Can't do the basics, yeah.
It's an interesting point you make there, Phil, because good strikers, if they are playing a 2 or even a 3 or even a single, they'll go forward as a dummy run. They'll just go forward to try and take the ball, and you'll drag me out with you. I might not be touch tight, but I'll have to go out with you, and then you're not getting the ball, and then there's somebody in behind me because X, Y, and Z is falling asleep. You're just running past me, grinning, because you just scored. Because I followed you. I've fallen for the oldest trick in the book. If you're going to go, I need you to take the ball, otherwise I'm fucked. You know, and I'm going to try and stand you up against me. Playing against you, I'd need you facing me all the time. I'd hate for you to be on the side.
Yeah, and that's what we get told.
In real trouble. Yeah,
but we always get told as a striker, you're not just standing, with your back to goal, walking around, waiting for the ball. You're always looking for the opportunity to get on the blind side of the defender so that they can't see you. So that when that moment, that timing, is ready to play the ball, bang, they're looking for where you are as you're already on your way. And I'd to get into that space, and then defenders then the dead because they can't cover.
I'd have to do the old walking back trick, Phil. I'd have to do the old and fall into you and try and take you out that way.
But when I watch, some of these guys at the moment, I don't see any of that. And even I go back and watch, strikers who, they might make 5-10 runs and not touch the ball, but they still keep making the runs because they know eventually one of them balls is going to come and they're going to get an opportunity to do it. I don't see that enthusiasm with some of these lads. I don't see they make a run, and if it doesn't come, it's like, oh. And then, granted, sometimes the wingers do need to cross the ball.
They throw their arms in the air. They make a run and they throw their arms in the air.
Yeah. And that's part of being a striker. You might have to make 10, 15 runs before you even get to touch the ball. So when you get that one run, that is when you've got to make the most of it, and you've got to take that opportunity, or you've got to, at least show the willingness to keep doing it. Because, as I say, if you make 5 runs and then you give up, and then on that 6th one, that's the ball that you would have got on the end of, you've got people like, obviously, when I was there, you've got Keno or whoever, and they're going to give you an absolute rollicking because they know that that's what the expectation is, and you should be there. And you can't go back and go, oh, well, I've made 5 runs and I didn't get the ball. No. That's not going to cut it. You've got to keep making them runs, and that's your job as a centre forward. And
we showed a clip yesterday. I don't know if you can find it, Jarvis, actually, because I can't remember what clip it was. But anyway, we were talking about this particular passage of play, and we both looked at each other, and we noticed something hugely, really awful. And that the 18-yard box we were attacking, we had not one striker in the box ready to receive the ball. Do you remember that? I can't remember.
Yeah. I have that clip. I can show it.
I can't
believe it, mate.
And we couldn't believe it, could we, Jarvis? I said to Jarvis, what do you notice? And we go, oh.
Is it one on the Garnacho cross?
It was the Garnacho cross, yeah, I think it was, yeah. It was in the Mazzari cross or the Garnacho cross, I can't remember now.
Yeah.
Mazzari, I think it was Mazzari. At one point in the picture, there was not one. It was the crossfield Bruno ball to Mazzari.
In the second half?
I think it was the first half. It could have been. I think it was the first half.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. We also have this dude. You see here, Garnacho turning with the ball,
Garnacho one,
crossing it in front of the goal, and you see here, there's no one here to receive the ball. The pass from Garnacho is not bad, but the striker should be there and be on the end of that.
Well, that's a tap in.
This is what you get.
Of course, it is. That's a tap in. Yeah.
If you stood, if you just take that back. Like, granted, Ahmad here isn't the central striker, but if you look here, if a centre forward who potentially, knows where to be in this particular situation, like Mainoo, he's not a centre forward, so, I can't really blame him. But if you're just positioning yourself as a centre forward there between Hughes and Gay and acting like, nothing's going on,
want him to stay here.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, you're just floating around in that position. You know, potentially, he could just take a touch and whip that ball across goal. You're in a position there where you can at least maybe slide and get a touch on it because that's
so we don't want to be on the blind side of Lacroix.
No.
We want to be on the front side.
Because it's all about reactions then. And if as a centre forward you can smell what's going to happen, and you've seen it over the years with the best strikers, they just got a knack of turning that little 5 yards of space, bang, and they just get a little toe on the end of it and it's a goal. Bang.
Cavani here, Cavani.
Oh, goal.
Prime Cavani, boom.
Goal. Not just the thing with Gay's. If you look at Gay, the way that he's just watching the ball, he doesn't. Yeah. He just turns around, just strolls around.
If he was floating around there, he wouldn't have known because.
Yeah, look at him there. He's number 6. What's going on? Yeah, not interested. Didn't need to be.
Yeah, and I think that comes with as well. Like, obviously, at this moment in time, you can say that the team's not playing well and the confidence is low, and players are playing out of position, and all that comes into it. And I get that. But subconsciously, the players that are probably playing in them attacking positions at the moment, because we're not fluid and we're not playing really good and we're not getting regular service into the box and it's not all flowing and fitting into place. You can fall guilty of, falling into that mindset of it's never coming in, it's not going to happen, it's not this and it's not that. But you can't do that as a centre forward. You can't have negative thoughts in your head about I'm not getting any service, it's not happening, because then when it does happen and you're not on the end of it and you're not expecting it or anticipating what's going to happen, everybody's on that. Everybody's on you and going like, what are you doing? Why are you not there? And that's the mentality you've got to have as a striker. It's so cutthroat. Like a goalkeeper can concentrate all the game, not have to make a save. But then when that one moment comes, he's got to be on his game to save it. Same as a forward. You might not touch the ball. Like Haaland yesterday, I think there was a stat, didn't touch the ball for 34 minutes in the first half. But then the ball came in the box, bang, he scores the header. And that's the difference of the mentality between an elite striker who knows his trade and knows where to be and what to do and the expectations, and someone who's just going through the motions and hoping things are going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Just imagine
Yeah, I just want to show this to Phil. This is what the clip we were talking about yesterday is to. Yeah, it's a long ball from Bruno up to Mazraoui attacking the corner flag area. But the problem is when this ball comes. You see here when Mazraoui receives the ball, there's no one here. It's totally
30
open.
yards, 30 yards behind. God, 30 yards. What's the
point
of playing that long ball? Look.
Exactly.
Now comes Mainoo. And it's a little bit late, It's like
6 seconds. 6 seconds, I think. By the time
with that phase of play, when I look at that back, that long ball from Bruno is a good ball, but Mazraoui there for me should be taking a touch and just wazzing that straight into that box first time. Get it under control and just feed it.
Totally agree. Yeah.
Right between the 6-yard box and the goalkeeper there, penalty spot on the 6-yard touch. Yeah. But obviously he couldn't do that because he's looked up and there's nobody within 30 yards. So
you want him just to pass right away in.
But even pass straight away to Ahmad there, like done the face up the game
9-yard.
They could have done that. They could have faced the game 1-on-1 there.
It's what you call the 9-yard ball.
And on his left foot, he could see the goal. If Ahmad was to get the ball there, he could see the goal.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Everything just seems to be too slow or taking an extra touch. And that extra touch gives the opportunity for them to get back. And there you see getting blocks and getting bodies in the way, not having the time and space to do what you probably could do if you did it quicker, get that pass in there, get it crisp, give him some information. These are all the little details that start having a massive effect and a knock-on effect of what's happening on the pitch, because
it's a combination play, innit? Like honestly, I've seen Ultrigram and I've seen Didisbury pass the ball sharper than Manchester United. I'm telling you, like bang, 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 where the ball is going. Combination play, one touch, boom, because it's worked on. But we'll see now. To me, the only grace that's saving him really is that he's not at the time in the training. So we'll see. Hopefully, I expect our attacking forwards our attacking play to improve with the time in the training ground. Yeah. I really expect Amorim to coach his socks off now. I really, because he's not getting help now. He's not going to get any help from Ineos and the Glazers. So he has to try to coach his. The only way he can do is coach his socks off.
What do you get? I mean, I had a bit of a thing yesterday about Xerxes, and someone sort of had a little bit of a pop at me for saying like I was sort of singling him out, but I've not singled him out. I just think when I've watched Xerxes from when we've signed him, when he started, I don't think he's had enough of an impact in the game and done enough. And when he's come on as a sub, I don't think he's came on and offered us enough or gave us even like a little bit of a extra bit of energy or impetus when we've needed something. I'm just interested in what you guys think, because I just don't really see him, and I don't really see what, other than obviously he's not bad with his back to goal at times and he can link the play a little bit. But even that, to me, that's not enough to be, playing up front for Manchester United. You need to have a lot more in your locker and offer to the table than just doing that. I'd just be interested in what you guys think, because I genuinely don't think he's good enough.
No, so the point is I think both of them. First of all, we don't sustain the ball up the pitch more. If you count as 10 seconds every time we get the ball forward, and that was just a chance that we just showed with where Kobbie and so Mazraoui combined with Kobbie, and then Kobbie passed it to Garnacho. You see that it's like all of that is like 6 to 7 seconds, right? We don't do it enough, so we don't get the ball to players enough in the right areas, right? That's the first of all. But in terms of him, he's not like a horrific out-and-out striker. He's the link player. He's the link player. But unfortunately, the people that bought him think that Manchester United needed something like it. And I understand the kind of thing if you wanted to keep Ten Hag, because Martial was acting as that player who was just linking, coming up a bit shorter, linking the play, and then the runners will go beyond. You know what I mean? Somebody will take the ball off him, and then the runners will go beyond to play that ball in a transitional style of football. But I look at him, I think at times he's quite intelligent. At times when you watch him, sometimes he'll point to the left or to the right and he'll receive the ball, and he knows where he is and he can see the picture. The ball needs to go out wide. But in terms of like killer in the box, Manchester United, honestly, we coined a phrase like playing up front for Manchester United became, right? The last time I remember where a United striker was getting loads of chances was Zlatan. The first season, Zlatan. Remember, Zlatan was missing sitter after sitter after sitter. After that, some of us who go to the games, we're always like, it's a graveyard shift. Playing up front for Manchester United is a graveyard shift. Yes, you can complain on like body language, like Martial, even Cavani when he played, the times he wanted to play. But sometimes he was like, oh, my body's aching, I'm not playing. It was funny, actually, Cavani. So on some days he'd be like, I don't feel good today. I've got a little knock. I feel pain here. I'm not going to play. Yeah. And this is somebody who's working at United who told me this. But I'm not going to lie. Like, I don't see, since Ollie left, to me, the last time I saw fluid three was Greenwood, Martial and Rashford. The interchanging, the constant rotation was really good when we held the ball up, because the ball was going wide and Martial and Greenwood can hold the ball. They could literally stand their foot. They can receive it on the front foot and the back foot. But after that died, and that was mainly the lockdown. That lockdown.
Yeah.
After that, I've not seen Manchester United sustain possession up the pitch more, and then to be able to get players into the game, because then you're like, okay, Manchester United, whether it's Højlund or Xerxes this season, they've not even getting into the positions to miss. I think he did that against Liverpool. Remember when they're battering us 3-0? He had a couple of chances when they were beating us 3-0 in the game. But
two headers.
Yeah. And then one that got blocked on the floor. But at the end of the day, I think we don't do what Manchester United used to do, is sustain attacks up the pitch. Do it again and again and again, so that teams knew the variations. Like, you know what I mean? So of the ball running, a lot of unselfish running, whether it's the wide people or the midfielders running and beyond. We don't do enough of that.
Mason Mount is injured. He's the only one who do that.
Yeah, it's very difficult for us to obviously judge of what a poor Manchester United is on just to go, these two players. To me, it's what walking around. That's what I judge you on. I judge you on playing for Manchester United. You're fucking getting paid that amount of flipping money. And Diego Dalot at this moment in time is taking the fucking piss. He's taking the piss. He is. He's taking the piss. He is. Yeah. I've counted with Jarvis 10 or 15 games this season. Jarvis, am I wrong? 10 or 15 games we looked at, and he's just
look at Dallo.
I roasted him last night, didn't I?
Look at this here. Look at this here. And that's what gets the ball. He should point. He should look over his shoulder and point and go, give me that ball. Let me whip it in. No, he look what he does. No man's not offering, no option, nothing. Just watch him. He might as well come and sit next to something in the stands.
Yeah, I know. He blocks him. Just going back to Xerxes, by the way, guys. I agree with both of you, actually. I think you're both 100% right about Xerxes. Me and Jarvis have had conversations about him before, and we're not really sure of him, are we, pal, to be honest? But I actually think he'll thrive. I think he'll thrive in a 2 based on old school ball, not modern ball, old school ball. He'd be brilliant in a 2 with somebody like you, Phil, or somebody a little bit smaller than him who can help him, and talk to him and say, look, I need you to press on the, on the centre half, and I will run in behind her. If I get the ball, I need you because I'm going to put a little cross in for you to head, stuff like that. And I think he'd work really, really well in a 2. Our problem is the 2 is Hoyland and Xerxes, and they don't match, don't they? They just don't combine. They don't click.
The combinations aren't clicking.
Yeah, I tell you, and Jarvis is going to love me for this. Xerxes, Jared Bowen would be an absolute heavenly 100%. Combination. Absolute heavenly combination. Because the way that Bowen, I think, and I don't want to blow smoke anywhere, Phil, I'm being honest, I think he plays your game. You were very, very similar to Bowen's movements. You're very both, stocky, short, quick, knew what to do with it. But do you know where Bowen's great? Like you were, single-minded. You're a selfish fucker on the pitch.
And as I said, you need that. That's
honestly, he scored a fantastic goal tonight against.
He did, didn't he? Oh, it was brilliant.
What
a goal! Brilliant goal. Brilliant.
Absolutely, he's living off like crumbs. Takes it, gets that, takes it, takes his time, boof into that park. Doesn't even give the keeper time to set. Boom, bends it around the corner. Like honestly, I said that. Honestly, I said that we should side Phil, but Bowen, people laughed at me. I was like, we're fucking shit, mate. Players like him who can make their own goals. Are you taking the piss?
I know. People are like, it winds me up.
I'm like, Raymond Kudus, both of them. Sign both of them. West Ham are better attacking than us. What the F does that say where we've been in this, how many years? On this now, Bournemouth have a better attack than us. West Ham have a better attack than us. Brighton have a better attack than us.
Yeah.
Villa have a better attack than us. Like, look at how many teams I can count that have got better attack than Manchester United.
I know, but that's how I see it, But I guess we look at it not from the fanciful point of view, but what's going to make a difference. Compliment. But what's going to make a difference? So, and football's all about making a difference, isn't it, Phil? It's all about making a difference. If you're on that pitch for 5 minutes or 95 minutes, it's what you do for that period that you're on the pitch. And if you come on for 5 minutes and pop one in with your head and it's the winner, that's it.
Yeah, I think that's my biggest sort of gripe with him. Not that I sort of don't think he's good enough, because I understand that, the system and the way that we're playing and the sort of players around him aren't suited and all that kind of stuff. It's more when I see him, coming off the bench, I want to see like a bit of, enthusiasm. I want to see a bit of energy. I want to see him trying to, grab the game by the scruff of the neck and trying to, have an impact on the game. And I'm not just saying that it's him, because, I could probably name, umpteen other players that probably do the same. But as a centre forward, and obviously from me, my point of view, obviously being a former centre forward, when I watch, players who used to come off the bench like Solskjaer and people like that, I know for a fact he would come onto a game, have an impact. He'd have Solskjaer, if you put him on for the last 10 minutes, I'd guarantee he'd have at least 2 shots, whether it's like him creating it himself, having half a yard and have a shot, or he'd be on the end of the cross. That and to me, that screams out, right? He's not played all the game. He's probably a bit disappointed he's not started, but he's come on, he's got the right attitude and he's had an impact on the game. And you can't question his application or his desire as a team player. And at the moment, obviously, I'm not seeing enough from the squad in terms of like when we are struggling and there's not say it's not happening for Hoyland or whoever, and they come off. I want to see someone coming on with the sort of bit between the teeth to say, right, I'm going to come on and I'm going to try and change it and make something happen, and maybe get the start in the game next game, because I do have a little 10 minutes where I show up really well. It doesn't seem like anyone's that bothered, and it's like, well, if he plays next week, it doesn't matter. And I can't accept that. Me, I don't know whether you feel the same, but I'm like, I'm like, players can't understand that. You play for Manchester United, people would give the right arm to even put a shirt on and just walk on the pitch. You're playing every week, and you've got the chance to play in the best league in the world for one of the biggest clubs that there ever is, and you're just strolling around.
But you know what? You know what people say to me? It's not that Manchester United anymore.
No.
And the players know it as well. So the players come, get their big contracts at United, and they put their feet up. It's like back in the day, Manchester United was an opportunity to go and be a world star. You know what I mean? It used to be like, you get an opportunity to mention, you grabbed it with both hands. Like, you're never going to get this. It's only downhill from now on. You got to grab it with everything. Now, it's like you made it. It's like, go on, get that sun lounger out.
Pot of gold, and then you can say
it's true, isn't it? I mean, Ollie Solskjaer famously says, doesn't he, that he didn't mind being a bench player, but he'd always say to the people in there, I don't know whether you ever heard him, Phil, but he said, Ollie scored again, yeah. Fuck you, Fergie. That's what it was all about, wasn't it? You've dropped me. Fuck you, Fergie. And he comes out and he says it all the time, doesn't he? It's all about the big FU. Everything in football is always about the big FU. Nuradin scored today. The fucker, I'm going to score too then.
Andy Cole against Spurs in 99. Andy Cole, subs bench. He's like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? He comes on, boom, lob. Yeah. Beckham already got that, the 2-1, boom, we win the league. Yeah.
Van Nistelrooy used to come in the changing rooms after a game, and even if he'd won the game, if he hadn't scored, he wouldn't talk to anyone. He'd be absolutely livid.
I love that. I do.
That's the got to have. Some of these lads, it's like getting blood out of a stone just to have a little bit of emotion from it.
Yeah. Apparently, Van Nistelrooy used to boot the kit basket. He used to smash that all over the place. Apparently,
The worst one was with him if he was on a hat trick and you didn't pass the ball, wasn't it? If he didn't get a hat trick,
and he got
it fucking shoot you. It literally shoot you. I mean, I love that. Yeah, I
remember him effing and blinding once when Fergie stopped him. He was on a hat trick at Old Trafford. Yeah, and he got stopped, and he was just like,
that's how far from where we are at the moment is like. You've got players being substituted after probably scoring 2 goals and maybe having umpteen other chances, fighting with managers because they want to stay on the pitch and score a hat trick, have another 10, 15 minutes worth of maybe opportunities. To now, having players who are just, it doesn't seem that bothered whether they come off, whether they come on, whether they get a shot, whether they don't. What's going on?
No, the worst one what I see now in modern football is that your striker or forward is on a hat trick. Somebody defender or something like that, or midfielder takes the penalty. I'm like, what are you talking about? What are you mad? Like, I'm on a hat trick. Like, no way. And some people are just like, I'm not the penalty take. I'm like, what are you talking about? To me, I look at it, I think Manchester United is not that Manchester United, and it's not been when Fergie left in 2013, that Manchester United left with him. And
it did.
We're regretting it. And to be fair, it was always when we were left to the Glazers, and now Ineos are there partaking in it. And it's just, it breaks my heart. What hurts me the most is all of the United fan groups. All of them have been gagged, except for 58. They're the only ones who are calling out what's happening. Everybody else is like,
it's a shame. I hate it. Even on a Wednesday night, and I know Phil plays on a Monday night, don't you, pal? If I lose, my missus knows when I lose because I come in, I won't speak. On a Wednesday night, playing with a bunch of lads, from 18, if I lose, fucking hell. I don't even. Do you know how bad I won't shake hands sometimes if I'm really pissed off, Phil. I won't, and that's bang out of order. You should always shake the opposition's hand, by the way. But I've walked off the pitch before. Fucking chuck me boots.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm murdered for it as well. Because I've played at a good level, and I'm playing on a Monday night sometimes with lads who's never even played.
It must be hard.
60-year-old fellas, and I'm wazzing crosses in, and I'm screaming at them to get on the end of him and like diving headers and that. And if they're not getting on the end of him, I'm giving him a rollicking. And he's like 68 with a hip replacement, and he's not. And I'm saying, get on the end of that, and they just look at me as if to say, but because that's the way I've been brought up, and like that was the expectations that I've always had. I can't just turn that button off. When I play football, I'm a different person. Like after the game, I'll apologise or I'll shake hands and
I'll calm down. I have to put in the group.
Yeah, during the game, mate, I'm just.
I have to put in the group chat, Phil. I have to apologise. So usually on a Wednesday night when I've calmed down, my missus says you're going to grow up at some, but usual stuff. And then I have to apologise in the group. Sorry, lads. We're used to it, Stu. Don't yeah,
that's what they say, innit? Never be a good fucking loser, innit? Never be
a bad winner, though. I'm a bad winner as well. That's my problem. If we've won 4-0 and we've hit the post from about a yard out, I want to know why we won 5. I'm terrible. I can't help it. But I have to catch down like that.
I've played with some managers like that. We've won the game convincingly, and you come in and everyone's buzzing and he's moaning about why it weren't 7 or 8 or why didn't you do it? I scored 4 once in a game, and I came off and I was like absolutely buzzing, and the gaffer's sort of like gone round everyone, and he came to me and he was like, fucking hell, Marsh, you like why didn't you should have scored 5? What happened with that one? And I was like, oh right, yeah. I said, well, I scored 4 though, and he was like, yeah, but you said you should have scored 5. What's going on? And everyone was like looking in the change room. But again, that comes down to probably him, not want to let me get ahead of myself and think, I'm too boots. But then,
apparently Fergie was amazing at that, wasn't he?
Yeah, knowing your players, and it's like knowing what player needs an arm around the shoulder, knowing he needs a bollocking. Like when I was in the changing room, he used to bollock Wes Brown a lot, but Wes used to like that because I think that gave him a little bit of a kick up the backside. Got him into the mindset of right, I can't let the fucking gaffer down. He's on
I knew Wes. So Wes used to play with us at the pits behind the Apollo in Longside there. And Fergie found out one of the people there who worked there ranked Fergie up and told him, and he wasn't allowed to play with us anymore. And he was like, lad, he's not want to know. I would go, all right, we'll go and play. I work with Park, just come play with us. He's like, no. He said to me, I'm out. If you ever heard I was playing, he said, I'm not insured to play.
Yeah.
That's what he was so good at, Fergie. Like he knew how to push everyone's buttons, knew each player inside out, what was the go-to for whenever they were struggling.
I mean, Giggs, that's what Giggs was, isn't it? Giggs used to scream at Giggs even though he had a good game. Yeah. And then Giggs would be like, I'll effing show you.
Prove him wrong, get a reaction out of players. And other players might need an arm around the shoulder, a bit of love, a bit of DLC. And then you get
Sharpie liked the beer too much, didn't he? Sharpie couldn't be asked. He liked the beer.
Yeah,
isn't a famous video of Fergie? I think was it Aberdeen he managed? Was it Dundee or Aberdeen?
Yeah, no, Aberdeen after the cup final.
After the FA Cup final, and then he's like, that's great.
My team shouldn't play like that. Yeah. The Gordon Strachan, I mean, his team. It had Strachan in it, didn't it? Jim Leighton, it had a top. My team shouldn't play like that. We only won 1-0. Oh God! Honestly.
It's a cup final. Was it a cup final?
Scottish Cup final at Hampden Park. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. There's loads going on in the chat, by the way, guys. We apologise for not, but I hope you've really enjoyed Phil's take on, transfers and attacking options again. And hopefully Phil will be able to join us again in the next couple of weeks. I know you've got a lot going on personally, but I hope you can. And
I've enjoyed it. I'll try and jump on again. Definitely.
There's loads going on in TV programs in the chat. I've seen like The Winner Takes It All. I've seen I don't know, loads of stuff. Every loser wins. Nick Berry, didn't he? Wasn't he in EastEnders or something? I don't know. There's loads going on in the chat, so I'd love to know what that's about. But we're not going to have time for the Q&A tonight, guys. Unfortunately. I know Phil's got to wrap up his side soon, but we love Phil.
Yeah, it's been a great show, and I just want to say there's a couple of updates from RushMano. The transfer window is officially closed, so there won't be any more.
Man City just spent 200 million and just signed a 60 million euro centre half from Porto.
Yes, Nico Gonzalez. is now signed and will be valid until 2029.
Who's
So,
that
yeah,
idiot?
That's the ex-Arsenal fan who's now a fucking City fan, and he's fucking jokes.
Right.
I'm sorry.
When
Yeah.
City got the money, he transferred himself from being an Arsenal fan into City fan.
Oh, I see.
He's
What
one
were
of
you
them.
saying, Nuradin? Do you think City have got a transfer ban coming?
No, I doubt it. Listen, from everything I'm hearing, they've got their lawyers to kick it down the pan, and it's going to be years and years and years, man.
Oh, okay.
I think, and they're not asked about it. But look at the way they're like a little bit maybe thinking about, oh, we might not finish outside the top 4. They go and fucking spend 200 million.
This was it. It all started from a Coronation Street pun.
Big up Lola, though. Big up Lola. Known
Yeah,
as
big up
AKA
Lola.
Alicia Sinkanova as well.
Fred, never apologise on this channel, mate. You're more than welcome to put anything you want, mate. Honestly, it's kept me amused listening to everybody speak. I've been watching the chat and it's kept me amused as well. So
FC. Brilliant. Oh.
it's yeah, sorry, Jarvis.
Yes,
I
the
apologise.
devilish tacticos are doing brilliant. That's their official name from now on. And this came out tonight with an update revealed why Man United ended their interest in Matthias Tell, and it's because Bayern wanted a 5 million loan fee, but no buy clause into the deal, and they seemed it as an expensive risk. So that's why Man United couldn't sign Tell, and they couldn't make the deal happen. Apparently,
Any excuses, all the effing excuses. To me, if Amorim wanted a player, then
That's
you
a
try
poor
to play it.
excuse. 5 mil. That's a poor excuse, surely.
That's a
But
poor
no,
excuse.
I think it's a poor
If
excuse.
that kid scores the winner in the Europa League final and Manchester United in the Champions League next season,
Yeah.
you're worried about a 5 million. You could make
He'll play
100
against us
million,
probably on Sunday, won't he? Next Sunday. He'll play against us next Sunday, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
So,
I
didn't
doesn't
know.
do too well. I wish him. I don't wish him all that well.
No, I don't know
Doing
whether
all
he'd
that
have been
well.
good for us anyway. We need proper scorers. Jared Bowen, age half. Jared Bowen.
Yeah. Jared Bowen.
Jared,
Honestly,
yeah.
Kudus. I keep saying Kudus.
Kudus
One of
as well.
I'll take
Kudus.
Welbeck.
Kudus. Yeah,
Well,
Welbeck. Yeah, that's the only thing
Yeah.
I ever think about Van Gaal. The manager that I regret the most was Van Gaal, but I was done with him when he got rid of Welbeck. I was gutted.
Mm.
I was gutted
Yeah.
when he got rid of Welbeck.
People
I was
mentioned
devilled.
that. A few people mentioned the kid from Brighton, that Ferguson. I mean, I don't know whether he.
He's gone to West Ham.
Yeah, he's gone to West Ham. He's gone on loan to West Ham tonight.
Yeah.
He's gone on loan to West Ham.
It's a little bit.
Yeah, he's been injured. He's had a couple of bad injuries, but he's still growing in it. So
Great
Yeah.
player, isn't he?
he's loaned
Great.
out tonight. Potter's loaned him tonight. Potter's loaned him. I'll tell you who I fancy as a striker. Oh, I think is the real deal. Who is that Delap kid? I swear to you. He is the
one
real
at
deal.
I've
Yeah.
seen him live.
He is the
No,
real deal, man.
Mm.
Yeah.
He's good for 20 minutes. He was good for 20 minutes against Wolves, and then he slipped out the game.
Maybe
but when he was good, when he was on it, fuck me, he's a big, hard bastard. I tell
He's
you.
got all of the things that make sense. Like at his age, that strikers usually be doing when they're the age 23, 24. He's doing it in that age and at that team.
Yeah,
Like everything's auto.
big
He just
dude.
control. Like he knows how to use his body. He knows how to make space. He makes when you see him on the ball, he's making all the right decisions.
Yeah, no, good player. But Evan Ferguson, he went to because he was Potter, had him, didn't he?
Yeah,
he's got him there.
So he's
Yeah, I
gone back
was just saying because I'd heard his name had been mentioned by a few
Yeah.
people. I mean, I'm not 100% sure, convinced whether he's quite ready just yet. As you say, he's been injured a while and he's not probably played enough football to sort of warrant, coming to Manchester United if you like. But maybe in the future, if he gets
He
a bit
is
more.
honestly. He's somebody.
He's a good
But
player.
Delap for me.
Yeah.
Well, I look at all those type of that age kind of strikers. Delap is ahead of them all.
Right.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, Nuri. I'd agree with that. Yeah, I would. Yeah.
Yes. Brilliant show, guys. It's been a fantastic debate, talking football, not even a debate, just talking football. And so much insight from Phil, from Nuradin, Stu.
Apologies for swearing, people, but that's just I'm passionate. I'm just
Nah, it's
Oh,
late.
I swear occasionally.
I'm just down in the doldrums about flipping Manchester United, and I don't see the light.
We are, mate. That's
unfortunate, but
it's well warranted at the moment. I think we're all, allowed a couple of swear words here and there when we're talking about this current United squad.
Yeah.
100%. DJ Superfly, big up, and J United, Stephanie coming in, Lola, lovely Lola with all her comments, Fred the Red, Trevor Wade. Sorry we couldn't answer all your questions.
No,
A lot of
we
good questions
apologise about
coming in
that, yeah.
tonight. And this is a new name I haven't seen before, Rimba 93. I hope you subscribe to the channel. We are on our way to 500. We are on 459 likes. No subscribers, and on this show we have 54 likes. So if you're watching this in the rerun, smash the like, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment in the non-live sections. I will try to answer all the questions and comments that comes in. So it's been a brilliant show. We will be back with a preview for the FA Cup game on Friday. I will be at least maybe Thursday, I would say. I don't know, Stu, how your schedule is, but
can we do an early one about 7ish? If we do about
we
7,
can try. We can try.
Yeah, it should be good. Yeah.
And then the rest of the schedule for the week will be a match reaction on Friday after the FA Cup game, and then we will have some time off until Monday, so it will be great. And everybody, thank you for tuning in. Remember to go to Nuradin's channel, United Real Therapy. If you haven't, give him a like and subscribe to that channel. He's on his road to 13,000 subscribers, and it's been brilliant having Phil Marsh on and Stu Woolley. So hopefully you will come back soon, Phil, and we can talk more football.
Yeah, definitely. I'll get back on again at some point, mate, in the next couple of weeks. No.
Perfect.
Fantastic. Yes. So thank you, everybody. It's been a great stream, 2 hours, 22 minutes. So hopefully we will see you on the next. Have a good night. And